Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/beat and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download the title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/BEAT. I really can't think of an actual cool opening for this movie at all. I thought about the entire ride to the studio. I couldn't think of nothing.
I would have laughed so hard if he would have started this out with swing low, swing. I would have been like, no, man, I can't. I cannot get on there with you.
I was gonna do walking on the green mile, get on your feet, something like that, but I couldn't really get it out. But what up? Welcome back to Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago on the big three: iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I am your guy, Jan Alonzo. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff, David Danger Neff. What's going on, partner?
What's the word?
I mean, I had 1 day off this week. It was amazing.
I had a day and a half off.
Yeah, a day and a half. Look at you.
That half was I worked that day I was supposed to be off.
Right.
So I worked the 8 hours, and then I got off, and then I spent the evening with family and friends, but it didn't last long.
No,
and Monday came
quickly.
Does.
It never does. No, we were remodeling everything in the house, and then I got two tires or 2 nails in a tire. It was
you told me
walked 3 miles.
That tire story is ridiculous.
Walked 3 miles home.
Were they green?
What, the tires?
Yeah, no, the miles.
Yes, every single mile was green with envy because I really wish I was riding in a car instead.
So, how was the week?
It was closed, over at the Cosmopolitan, so life was always interesting, and bosses had demands, and I had to relay those demands. How about you?
Oh, it was good. I caught some movies over the weekend.
What'd you catch?
I caught Ad Astra.
Did you like it?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It's not bad. It's just, all right, the one part that cracks me up in that movie is how dumb were those pilot astronaut guys? When he's climbing up the tube, gets up there, and then they decide to attack him, and I'm like, this really doesn't feel that smart considering you're all astronauts.
If we were reviewing the movie right now, I'd have easily cut that out. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
But besides that, though, Brad Pitt does a bang-up job. Tommy Lee Jones is in this.
Yeah.
You don't see him very often.
No, not anymore.
But Brad Pitt did get the Golden Globe nomination today.
Did he?
According to the show, yeah. For Best Supporting.
Good for him.
For Once Upon a Time. So we'll see.
Wait, Brad Pitt got for Once Upon a Time. I was like,
oh no.
I was like, for Ad Astra. I was like, I mean, he did good,
but that's his
it
movie.
wasn't that good.
But yeah, I caught Ad Astra. I also caught The Irishman again.
You watched it again
for a second time? Yeah, I dedicated that whole 3.5 hours straight through.
Good for you.
And it was awesome, fellas. It was awesome. I had a great time with it. We have guests today.
We do.
Please introduce our guys who are riding with us today in the DeLorean.
Who are right? Yeah. Imagine this is a DeLorean, guys, if you can. You got the green screen. Classics, you got a huge back. Yeah, you get the idea. I was fortunate enough to also be a guest on their own podcast, and they had me on last week. You guys can check that out. Shared it all over Facebook. You can also check out their Facebook group. Is that what it is? Facebook group? Is that correct?
Yeah, Facebook page.
It is page. Yeah. My apologies. Facebook page. Dork Side News. I have Richard and James here.
Hey guys.
What's going on?
What's going on, guys?
We're surviving.
Yeah.
Little by little.
Yeah. I got a bum ankle now because I moved last week. So.
I like how you left the girlfriend at home so she can do everything else.
That's exactly.
I moved everything. Yep. All the big items are out of the way. Now you go unpack now.
I was like, I think she might like it if she came, but she was like, I just want to go home and unpack. I'm like, that's fine with me.
That's cool too.
You can go unpack all you want.
Very cool. So I want to talk a little bit about Dorkside News and your guys' project here. How long have you guys been doing this now?
So it is since January.
Okay.
Yeah, so
we're almost at a year.
Yeah, almost a full year.
Our episode titles might say otherwise because I think we're on 47.
Or our naming convention is
just went
season
over
Season 1, episode 47.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was about to say, I was like, wow, they're on episode 147. They're doing pretty well, right?
For just being on January, like, wow, where are we lacking?
Like, we pump out 3 a week, man. Like, we gotta
go, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the episode 155, like the ghost episode, will never be heard or seen.
When it jumps to 201, then it's going to really throw people off.
So, but what made you guys want to do this? What made you guys want to get into the podcasting game and, decide to kind of celebrate Dork Side news in this case?
Well, for me, I just wanted to start off and just talk about things I liked. And it slowly morphed into me just complaining about everything that I don't like now.
Well, we were doing a weekly Twitch stream, and
Yeah.
it was like a variety show. So it was just a couple of us, and then pretty soon, by the time it ended weekly, it was like 12 people, and we had skits and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? We're doing so much work, and it's only up on Twitch for a limited amount of time, and it's not really. It's like it's live. We're interacting with the audience, so it's not really that fun to watch later on. And I was like, you know what? This is almost like a waste of time. Like we were getting traction and everything, but we just couldn't keep it up. It was crazy, like all these food challenges.
We were doing a lot of food. We were eating a lot of food. A lot. And it wasn't like, Cheetos and stuff like that. It was like
the hottest things we could buy.
the hottest thing on the planet.
Jay still owes me a Hot Ones challenge. Don't think
not
I
gonna
forget
lie
about it.
I
still
I
got the
forgot
hot
about it.
sauce, just so you know.
I actually forgot about it, but
now that I've reminded you.
But now a year later, when the Oscars are going to roll back around, now we can do that come February. So
we
it's
can
all
do
good.
that, and then we can follow it up with The End, which is a 6 million Scoville hot sauce that's 3 times as hot as the Hot Ones Redux. But we have both. We can do it all.
Oh yes, that is.
I feel like
that's happening now.
the end is cheating though, because Hot Ones is all natural and
Because
the
the
end
thing, it tastes good. I don't care.
Okay.
James.
Okay.
It tastes good.
the end tastes good.
Oh, it's delicious.
Okay, I haven't tried it yet, so I plan on it.
So explain the name Dork Side News. How did that originate?
So originally, me and some friends did Dorkside cookies, which was like my board game stuff and my cosplay photography. I do like photography, like boudoir photography, cosplay photography. I also film.
He's
like
being
indie.
modest. He's really freaking good at it. He's got a lot of really good pictures.
Oh, thank you. And I'm an indie filmmaker, so what I kind of decided was to split it all up. And then it was like, well, but we still have this stuff that we want to talk about, like comic books and geek out about Marvel movies and geek out about Star Wars stuff. And so we were like, you know what? Let's keep that original name and just rename it just a little bit, refine it a little bit, and Dorkside News. That's where it came from.
Dork Side News.
So where's the? So I know you guys do because our show, it wasn't live, but it was definitely like recorded, so you can catch it on YouTube. Is that where you guys mainly promote at? YouTube, Facebook?
So my old business partner had the YouTube channel, and we were the most watched over there. And then we split up, lost that YouTube channel. And so we were only on the podcast. So we're on everywhere, like, Apple and Spotify and all that stuff. But now we're back on YouTube. So we're still building up the new audience, but I think that's where we'll probably get most of our traction, because I have a bigger YouTube audience with like my board game channel and stuff like that.
He has a board game channel too.
Yeah, Grey Wizard Gaming. Yeah. It's small, 2,000 subscribers, 2,100 subscribers, something like that. But a pretty big audience. Board game designers will reply to my videos, and I'll be like, "Hey, do this thing," or "Why is this like that? I hate this." And then they'll reply into my comments, so I know that they're not only like watching the video, but they're actually like watching it all the way through, because otherwise they couldn't reply to what I'm saying. So
we're talking like classic board games like Trouble.
No, these are the mega board games. These are like. Board games that start at $200, then you buy all the expansions. Now you're up to like $2,500, and you got 8-inch tall Cthulhu's like stomping around on a world that looks kind of like a Risk board. Yeah.
Jay, when I tell you, I walked into this gentleman's house, and they have this separate, I guess you can call it a den area almost. And inside this den, he has his computer, tri-screen, in triangular shape. And from wall to wall, from this corner, wrapping itself around was all board games. And he's like, yeah, this is room 1. Room 2 is upstairs. And I'm like, that's what's up, man.
Close to ceiling.
Well, they're like, you know what? Nice.
Oh yeah, he had like I don't want to say it's a replica because I didn't pick it up because I was afraid to pick it up. But he had it's almost like a 3-foot tall Infinity Gauntlet that you also had, as well as the PS4 was there as well.
The Infinity Gauntlet gets the middle finger all the time.
The Mjolnir Gauntlet, yeah. I mean, it's pretty geeky.
Yeah. He's a big fan of Doctor Strange, so one like whole left side of that. The entertainment cabinet is all just Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah, and I dress as Doctor Strange and visit sick kids in hospitals for Critical Care Comics, local charity here in town. So.
Do you alter the goatee, or you kind of keep it the way it is? Because Strange has like a pencil thin one.
Yeah, that's a little too thin for me. I clean it up a little bit, but I'm not going like that.
Gotcha, no problem. No problem. So we're gonna go over some trailers here. Which one should we cover first?
Let's do Ghostbusters, man.
We have to. I mean, that's the most legendary one as far as bring back nostalgia. So
absolutely,
Ghostbusters Afterlife. The trailer dropped yesterday.
Yeah, so like all these trailers dropped within the last like 48 hours.
Right, easily. Right. So what's the release date on this? Do we know?
July 2nd, 2020.
All right, so it's directed by Jason Reitman, son of Ivan, the original director of the first two. What did you guys think of the trailer?
Wow, this was such a good homage to the original Ghostbusters franchise, and it doesn't feel like a cash grab. It feels like a true, the next movie, and it's more serious. It's not just a laugh track.
Right.
It was. I mean, I got chills. I really enjoyed it.
I think it was like Stranger Things the movie, but not in a bad way.
I feel the exact same way.
All the best, because there's even one of the actors is from
Stranger Finn Wolfhard is in it, obviously.
There was like one of the ghosts, I guess that's what I say, or demons, whatever it's going to be, sounded like a Demogorgon scream. So
right,
but it was literally all the best parts, and I hadn't watched it until we just got here, and for the last 28 or 24 hours on my Facebook, it's been nothing but this trailer was so amazing, and I was like, why does everybody care? So I watched it today. And it's the Ecto-1. The Ecto-1 is what did it. When he drove the Ecto-1 out in the field, everybody just throwing everything around. Yes!
The quality's going to... It looks like it's so good.
Yep.
It's going to really it's going to feel a little bit out of sync with the rest of the Ghostbusters franchise, I think.
Right. Because that was a problem with the Ghostbusters franchise. Like, the first one was legendary, and it holds its legendary status with everything. And a lot of people are very hit or miss with Ghostbusters 2. I feel like with Ghostbusters 2, if you watch it 1, 2, maybe 3 times, you find yourself really liking it. And it gets in worse quality every single time you like watch it afterwards. And then for those who enjoyed the latest Ghostbuster entry, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of it. I thought there was a little bit too much of trying to generate excitement for something that wasn't truly there. I felt like that movie would have been so much better if they would have really focused on the cartoon, the animated cartoon that came out back in the early 90s. If they would have focused more on that, you'd probably have a lot more fans there. But I don't think in this climate it wouldn't have worked. Personally, though, this latest one though, it has everything that I love. It has children trying to grow up to be there. It kind of has this like almost like it almost has like a 1980s feel, and they did this cleverly because they did this with like It, which is, you know, you have this camaraderie between the two kids that feels pretty good, even though they're obviously brothers, and no appearances from the original cast, but we know from what we know that it's they're all coming back.
Yeah.
As a teaser, though, I'm really glad they set it in the way that they did. Instead of focusing it on New York City, look, we've seen New York City. We've seen New York City with ghosts. Like I'm more interested in like the rural country where you don't have a whole lot of people that could be affected. It's kind of like you guys remember the TV show Erie, Indiana?
Oh yeah,
yeah, kind of like that. It's like this small town feel, but everything is weird with this town, and that's what I really enjoyed most out of it.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I love the like I said, the the theme of the movie is not necessarily slapstick comedy or really just, ghost comedy. But like you said, in New York, we're so used to seeing New York just getting just shitted on as far as like ghost and just everything. Like,
they're just like, just take a number. I walk down this block, I get ghost. I walk down here, I get mugged.
It's like, ghost. Like, we've seen it. This is New York. We've seen it. But I do love the that secluded vibe of the trailer as far as like being in this little small town, and obviously the Finn Wolfhard is playing some sort of akin to what's his name?
Egon. Yeah,
So,
definitely feels like they're at least the grandchildren of Egon.
Right. So I love the Stranger Things vibe of it. I love that you don't rely heavily on the comedy. More so, it's because Ghostbusters is supposed to be a horror comedy. So you do kind of put more of that horror thriller vibe into it, and then kind of we can see how it plays. It's just a teaser, so but we'll see how it plays out and see what we really get out of it. But I like that first kickoff to the trailer.
Now, let me ask you this: something we do on our show that we probably elaborate a little bit more on this, but I am very curious. Do you think the women of Ghostbusters, the other one, are justified in feeling like they got crapped on by them announcing this movie?
I think that's kind of difficult to say because the best marker for your own success comes in your box office number.
I think they expected it.
I think they did too.
They expected it.
Especially Leslie Jones. She's a very intelligent woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's definitely going to see that. I think a lot of them have already kind of moved on because they did. In my opinion, I thought they brought the 4 best people that could have made this work.
Right.
It just didn't.
If they had done a handoff, I think they could have made it work, but they didn't. They basically said, "Oh yeah, that old stuff in the '80s that never happened."
Right.
And how could all the original fans not feel insulted?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I think the announcement of the all-woman cast was already met with scrutiny. Not to mention, like you don't want to go into this new movie thinking like, okay, so what's this hidden agenda? Like, all right, so ladies, this is what we're gonna do. And like you said, we have probably the 4 best ladies you can pick for this particular job with Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, Melissa McCarthy,
Kate McKinnon.
Hilarious powerhouse women. But I feel as if, like you said, a good handoff would have been a much more clever and really a good genuine way to kind of usher in this new Ghostbusters thing, not just kind of whatever, the 80s never happened. Like, this is the new thing. And then you have the original guys in there, Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. Even though Bill Murray's not even playing, the character from the original movie, he's playing like some rich snob, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
I forgot about the movie completely. I saw it one time, I never saw it again. So,
anybody else so tired of New York? I just don't want to see so much stuff in New York.
I was going to say that earlier. It's like, after Ghostbusters 2, you would have thought everybody would have moved out of New York.
We get it. We're in New York. We know.
So, I am really, really feeling good about this movie.
I am not a Ghostbusters fan like most people are, but I am psyched to see this movie. It does look really good.
You're young.
Yeah, it does.
It drops July 10th of 2020. So
Did I say I said July 2nd. Was I wrong on that?
Yes, July 10th. July 2nd is actually the next trailer we're going to talk about, Free Guy.
No, that was July 3rd then.
July 3rd.
Oh, close enough.
No, you're off. You're wrong.
You're really wrong right now. Free Guy, new movie with Ryan Reynolds. This is probably the most exciting one I'm looking forward to talking about because I think we yearn for that perfect video game movie. What better way to tell a movie from the NPC,
perspective.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. It's definitely the non-player character.
It's definitely the guy in GTA that you always kind of just walk up, punch on, kind of keep running. I love the vibe of this trailer. Like, it's so fun. It's Deadpool meets Ready Player One.
I feel like with this trailer, so it's, in my opinion, it actually calls back a little bit further than that. It goes back to a Gerard Butler movie, Gamer. But Gamer was underrated.
Hell yeah.
But Gamer was one of those that was like, it was more like action packed and was super serious. This one feels like it's action packed, but no, it's definitely a Ryan Reynolds film.
Yeah.
More than anything. What'd you guys think?
Well, first of all, I would be 100% surprised not to see Aviator Jin in here somewhere.
Right, absolutely.
Because that's his whole joke with
I really hope they get the
everything he
Peloton girl to do it again.
No, this movie looks absolutely hilarious and amazing and everything I wanted. As soon as I saw Ryan Reynolds making a new movie, already in line for it. But then you see the trailer and you see Taika Waititi sitting in a chair. I'm like, I'm already, here's my money. You can have it.
I thought this was I don't know. I'm really happy for Ryan Reynolds to see him out of mask and kind of back. I mean, he's a hilarious actor, and I think he had like a bad time with Green Lantern or whatever, and then he was like, I'm not going to show my face for a while,
for a nice little while.
But also he was trying to get away from probably his like rom-com kind of like days, and now he's kind of an action hero. So that's good for him because it looks amazing. I actually liked Ready Player One. The book was amazing. A lot of people who loved the book didn't like the movie.
I liked it.
I liked it both.
I liked the movie Ready Player One. I love the book Ready Player One. I really wish that first dungeon would have been against Tomb of the Horrors. It would have been so amazing, but they didn't do it. That's okay. The first challenge was still fine, but I really wanted the like simplicity of the first time, but that's okay. But back to this, absolutely amazing. I think it's definitely a lot of fun. I think I do still want to see a little bit more to kind of see like okay, what's going to wind up being. It's a teaser trailer, so you're not going to get the whole story of it. But what is your end goal from this? Is there like what's the MacGuffin? That's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also the way the trailer starts off, you kind of don't know what you're watching until like, oh, I get it now.
Right.
And, I love the little small things. Like there's a reference to, GTA in there. There's a great reference to, what's the game all the kids playing nowadays? Fortnite. Yeah. But it's the small stuff like as he's walking down the street, he gets punched in the face, kind of just shakes it off, keeps walking like I'm supposed to get punched in the face every day.
Right.
And, it's basically, it tells this great story about what an NPC would go through on a daily basis. This is your job to get beat up, shot, whatever. You just go to bed, do the same thing the very next morning. So I love how we're going to explore that vibe of, you'll look at GTA way different after you see this movie. That I agree with.
I want to give a special shout out to all the video game adaptation movies that actually look like they're really trying to start to make them look good. I'm just really waiting for the Sims video game movie, but it needs to be a horror. With they can clearly see the icon that's directly above them.
They just ignore
all of a sudden they can't control themselves and they have to go do this stuff. I'm in a pool. Where did the wall go?
Yeah, exactly. The door vanishes. I'm hungry. I can't get out of here.
I think the best part about this trailer is it's really funny to see Ryan Reynolds' character, who I guess it's Guy. I think his name is Guy.
First name Free, last name Guy now.
Seems so blasé about everything that normal people would freak out about. Like, he's getting shot at, and he's like, just another day in the neighborhood.
It's the first clue there's something really weird in here,
right?
And there's definitely a They Live kind of vibe in there as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Which I caught that first view of it, which I thought was pretty dope.
Do you guys feel like the gimmick of him being an NPC that is just so blasé about everything is basically like now lost? Like basically now when you're watching the movie, it's almost going to be a little bit boring to watch them go through their motions while you're waiting for the actual like combat action stuff to just happen.
No, because I think if they're smart with this movie, what they would do is continue to kind of show the creepy unintentional like knowledge. Oh yeah, like this is normal, and then okay, a perfect example. Imagine if they actually made these characters similar to how like 1980s, 1990s NPCs were, which is hi, what's your name? I'm here to defend the castle. Well, that's great. Can you tell me where? I'm here to defend the castle, and then they just keep saying the line over and over again. There used to be this webcomic called 8-Bit Theater from Brian Klevensky. I read that religiously, and like the fifth comic they like made fun of that because they have Fighter who's like this dumb who's a fighter but he's dumb. He's like I like swords. Welcome to the kingdom. I like swords. Welcome to the kingdom. So if they do that sort of comedy, I think that's where it's going to kind of hit it off. But it has to be very clear that these are still NPCs, that they're not supposed to respond normally to things that happen to them. Just like even in the latest GTAs, sometimes you like fall in front of them and they turn around and scream at the top of their lungs and run into traffic and get hit by a school bus or something like that. That happens all the time. Yeah. If they do that,
I would love to see that. I would say like a gun and go off, somebody just takes off running to get my bus.
If they do that, it would be amazing. but they have to make sure that the entire focus is on the NPCs, not on the MacGuffin at that point.
Right. Well, this movie drops July 3rd of 2020. 2020 is looking to be a pretty good year for some movies, man.
Oh, but wait until this last one.
This last one is going to be a problem. Wonder Woman, is it 84? Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah, Wonder Woman 84.
Wonder Woman 84. Trailer dropped. The official trailer has dropped. What do you think about it, man?
Ooh. Boy, there's a lot to unpack here. No lead in there. I like that. What do I think about it?
I'm still thinking about it. That's why.
I think you got a lot of information there. Obviously, we saw Kristen Wiig kind of playing back and forth with her, speaking about love, and that was one thing that kind of annoyed me a little bit because so Wonder Woman ended it basically ended at the start of World War II, right?
Yep.
So 1939, maybe even 1940. I can't remember if there were U.S. or British soldiers, so let's call it 1939 and 1942. She's still hung up over Steve. It's 1984. You haven't gotten over him?
No.
It's 40 years.
But it's real love, Dave.
They had a weekend.
But it was
they
real.
Had a weekend.
It's real love, Dave.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So Captain Steve Rogers went through the exact same thing.
We're not complaining about him, are we?
And he was actually alive for 80 years without his long-lost love.
Yeah, but
and
he
they
was
really
frozen.
only had a week.
but he was frozen. When he came out of hibernation...
You don't remember your first love?
Not anymore.
Man.
I mean, I remember.
I do.
I mean, I remember.
I do too.
But I don't miss her.
Touche.
She misses me, damn it.
That'd be that's so weird.
But he died.
Yes.
It's different. He didn't. They didn't have the breakup phase.
I'll give you that. I think I see it more with Rogers because he was frozen, and like his first line once he realizes the era that he's in is that I missed a date. Yeah. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
that was like, yeah, man, that sucks. That sucks super hardcore, and that to me like set up more of a connection to Rogers than anything. But she lived it. She lived 40 years. Come on, LSD in the 1960s? Free your mind, expand your mind, so she legalize LSD.
She lived 3,000 years on an island with all women.
Was that what it is? 3,000?
Yeah.
Well, ancient Greece.
I'm not sure.
Ancient Greece, 300 BC, 2,300 years maybe.
No. I didn't know it was that long, but fair enough.
Yeah, and then her first guy that she ever saw.
First guy to show interest in her. Because that was the literally first
guy.
It
was the first guy. It was the first guy she ever met.
Yeah.
2,300 years, and I've never seen a man before. I would probably think they look like a Gorgon.
Yeah.
Well, it's Steve Trevor. Do you look like Steve Trevor?
No, I like him. I think he's a fine character. I just, I probably would have been like, okay, that really sucked. Heartbroken for 10 years and be like,
my issue though,
what about this 1950s lifestyle that everybody kept talking about?
My issue though with this is, though we don't necessarily feel like the loss of Steve Trevor like we would feel like the loss of, say, Peggy in the Captain America movies, you bring him back anyway. That's where I'm kind of like, okay, why?
So real quick, I'm not going to really discuss the trailer, but it kind of all revolves around what I think is Max Lord.
Absolutely.
Because, so obviously Max Lord, who's played by Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
Great show.
Best show.
Awesome show.
It's a fine show, gentlemen. Yes.
It's a baby Yoda show.
So Max Lord has these. So it's not very clear that he has the superpowers yet, but they obviously were. One of the things that they kind of showed in the trailer was a gem.
Yeah.
Obviously, which I strongly feel is the Chaos Gem, or at least a Chaos Gem. And then they showed like the tower, right? Which that should be Brother I think that's what it's called.
You're going deeper than I'm aware of.
So you said Chaos Gem, and I went to Sonic, so I'm already gone.
So all right, well, that's fair enough. So basically, but Max Lord eventually. So in the new 52, Max Lord winds up getting the powers of mind control.
Yeah, persuasion,
and also what I believe is a reality bending kind of thing. So I'm wondering if that's what's really going on here.
He has a little bit of of a speech, right? That, she gets what she wants or something, and now he gets what he wants.
Right. Because he even says it in the trailer.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a bait and switch, but I don't think that's what he's actually talking about in the movie, but it might be.
But I think that would be the greatest bait and switch. Literally have the entire movie with Steve Trevor there this entire time and her rebuilding this connection to a guy. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, now it's time for me to get what I want. She said, no, I can't do that. And then he suddenly, like snaps his fingers or whatever, and he just disappears. And he's like, if I don't get what I want, you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
And that, woo! Man, get me on the right platform right now.
I haven't seen Wonder Woman, so
oh my! What?
We've talked about this on the show. You give me credit for it every single time.
And you run Dork Side News.
Yes,
don't feel bad. I saw it one time. I liked it. I saw it one time.
Yeah, I was mildly interested in seeing the first one and just never took that mild interest to actually go see it.
Well,
and
I'm also spoiled a whole lot.
No. I already knew all this stuff from other people talking before. Anyways,
we must talk on podcasts.
Yeah. And I'm only mildly interested in seeing this one. So
I just don't like the DC Gods Among Us concept,
right?
At all. I just don't like it. So I don't like any of these characters that are gods who aren't even fighting gods for the most part. They're just literally fighting humans. I don't even know why she blocks with the bullets and stuff, except I guess to protect people, because she's literally bulletproof as far as I know.
No, you're not wrong.
Because it looks so cool.
No, there was an entire comic about that actually, because Superman literally asked her, "Why do you block with your gauntlets?" Like, I don't make sense. She's like, "Really? You don't see?" Starts shooting. Her boobs start jiggling like crazy, and all the bad guys are going. She's like, "That's why." So she purposely does it for that appeal. I'm not even a DC guy, but I know that.
The one thing I want to point out, one of the only things I know about Wonder Woman, and from what I know of not seeing Wonder Woman the movie and seeing the trailer for this one, is there still no invisible jet?
That's not true. You saw them sitting down together inside of a very clear cockpit going through fireworks, and you usually don't fly through fireworks.
She also Tarzans with lightning.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, actually.
Now, I had a question. So there's a quick shot of her swinging her last roof, and there's appear to be another blue lightning. Is that Zeus?
She's got the powers of Zeus.
Yeah.
Right. But Zeus is her father, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So is she summoning the power from her father, or like this? There's I don't know if you caught it, but there's a certain shape that forms for a brief moment. In that quick little shot, it looks like it's the shape of a man.
Maybe. I mean, in the end of the first movie, she gets the powers of Zeus, though, right? Isn't that...
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely gets the powers of Zeus.
I think he's diving just as much as I do into the Star Wars stream. You see in this frame right here, I'm
trying to go as deep. I'm like, is that a Zeus thing?
Was that a purple lightsaber I saw there?
I want to rewatch it now.
Here's the other thing. So the Wonder Woman trailer came out, and they announced Shazam 2.
Yeah.
So that could be a crossover right there that they're tying together.
Right. I love Shazam. Now that I'll watch a few times.
It ended weird, but
it did kind of odd. But I like it.
It's can we say that Wonder Woman's likely to be another $1 billion movie though? I mean
without a doubt.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I think so. What's really interesting in my opinion is how Phase 4 of Marvel is going to line up against what's coming up next with DC. Because if you really think about it, you have Wonder Woman 84. We have Birds of Paradise that's getting ready to drop like next month.
Boo.
Which, it's probably not going to be that good.
I'm only mildly interested in seeing Wonder Woman. I'm less interested in seeing this.
I just don't care to see it at all.
But then afterwards, you have the Batman that drops. Aquaman 2 is slated for release towards the end of 2022. You have
Glitter Batman. I knew you were going to say.
No, I so want to complain that there's 2 different Batman-themed movies with 2 different Commissioner Gordons. What sense does that make?
That's a very fair point. I never thought about that.
No, because one is going to be
JK?
JK.
In Birds of Prey, right? Because we know in the Batman, it's Jeffrey Wright playing Commissioner
Exactly.
Gordon. Right,
exactly. You got it.
Huh.
2 different commissioners.
And I think it's just so that they can make his daughter be white, Latina. No, white. I think just so that they can make his daughter be white, they set J.K. Whatever Rollins. J.K.
Simmons.
Sorry.
So this is a one-off, or this was like in the Suicide Squad?
They just don't care anymore.
They don't care. They must not care anymore. We're lost at this point.
They're all were supposed to be one-offs, but they're like one-offs that have sequels.
They weren't originally supposed to be one-offs.
Yeah.
I think it's just that they've only had success with one-offs.
They're losing it at DC right now. Like, we got all this good shit, but what do we do with it? Yeah, anyway, this movie drops. Let me see here. It drops June 5th of 2020.
Nobody cares.
Nobody really cares.
Yeah,
but,
Nobody really cares.
It is what it is. But will you go see it?
No.
Which
one?
For Wonder Woman 84.
I'm going to see it.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, if I haven't seen the first one by now, I'm probably not going to see this one.
Yeah.
We're all just going to sit down and make you sit down and watch. And
I mean, I'm not going to hate it. It's Gal Gadot with a whip. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sign me up.
It's a lasso.
That she kind of uses like a whip now.
Yeah, okay.
Western times, it's a whip. Definitely.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/beat and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audible.com/BEAT to get started. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. Personally, I love Audible. The last thing I listened to, because I've been kind of slacking, sorry Audible, is Have a Nice Day, the Audible original that stars Billy Crystal and Annette Bening. It's a lot of fun. It's like an hour and a half listening, so it's perfect when you need to get through work. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/beat. Again, that's audibletrial.com/BEAT for your free audiobook.
All right. That's good reading.
Thank you. I coughed before.
Let's get into some emotional feels.
I mean,
Who is ready
we
to
are
cry?
going to be
Who's ready to cry today?
the most emotional movie to come out. In
I think this is the most emotional movie we've covered on this show. Like, easily.
I think Saving Private Ryan was pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
but
much.
not quite like this.
I think this one beats Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, not quite like this. Same actor.
I think we're the wrong generation to really say that. Because I promise you, if I asked like my grandfather, he'd be like, "No, Saving Private Ryan was like the worst." You know, rest in peace. But he'd be like, "It was the most accurate representation that I've ever seen. I never even served in World War II. I was in Korea." And he would do all that.
Yeah, I think this one it hits a little different only because, especially for me, because when I first saw this movie, I was way young. So when I saw it again, I'm like, "Yeah, these tears are really working, man. Like they work for sure." We are taking it back to 1999. The last couple movies of 1999 before we kick out the new millennium, the new decade.
The new millennium. Y2K, baby.
Y2K, Will 2K. With the Green Mile. Original release date, December 10th of 1999. Shares opening weekend with The Cider House Rules, Ride with the Devil, and our movie we did last week, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
Ooh, man, that was a good weekend.
Yeah.
Cider House Rules is a really underrated film.
So really sad
risque.
movie and then really funny movie. And then
So Deuce Bigalow, right?
And Ride with the Devil, which I think nobody saw that.
Nobody ever saw that.
That's an old Skeet Ulrich movie, actually, that nobody really saw.
Ride with the Devil, that is literally the first time I've heard of that movie is today.
But do you know who Skeet Ulrich is?
Nope.
Do you ever watch the original Scream?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's the bad guy.
Okay.
But
He was supposed to be the next big thing. Never happened.
You know what?
Never
He did a movie called Chill Factor with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Fair
that
enough.
No one saw. Production budget $60 million with a box office total of $290.7 million. Currently at a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Best Supporting Actor for Michael Clarke Duncan. May he rest in peace. Best Sound, Best Screenplay, and Best Picture, which it lost to American Beauty.
That's fair.
No.
Whoa, debate time.
Ooh.
Let's go. Ooh, let's go.
Hold on, before we even
hates that.
start this movie. You really like American Beauty that much?
No. I'm just saying that was fair. I still like Green Mile more, but I'm just saying I get it.
So you understand that some people, because American Beauty was a good movie,
Yeah.
and so you can understand some people might have voted more for it. Yeah.
No, I still
But
am
not
all
you.
about Green Mile.
Yeah.
I was talking about this in the car with Jay on our ride over. The 1998 and 1999 Oscars were some of the worst decision making. It was super political the entire time.
Oh, clearly.
Isn't it always political?
Yes, but this was like really the start of like the hand wringing and like deal making and whatnot. Harvey Weinstein, may he rest in peace. I know he's not dead. He should be.
I'm like, is he dead?
But like in '98, it was Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan, which nowhere near close in terms of quality. Saving Private Ryan is the best war movie that we've had in the last 20 some odd years, last 20 years, and I think only the one that's going to come into question is this upcoming one in Christmas 1917. Yeah.
What about Endgame? That doesn't count. I'm just kidding.
No, because Infinity War was better.
1917 looks
stunning.
Amazing.
It does. It looks so stunning, and it's because it's one person's perspective and it's a one-shot film.
Yeah.
That brilliant. It was even nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture. It hasn't even dropped yet, and it's already gotten Best Picture nom.
It's crazy because same thing with Bombshell. Bombshell drops, I believe, next week, and it's already getting like at least 4 already.
Yeah, because Margot Robbie got it for no.
Charlize did too.
No, that's a Charlize. Mm-hmm. Charlize, who plays what's her name? Who was the blonde in Fox News that nobody liked because she was an idiot?
Megyn Kelly.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But and then in '99, obviously, like American Beauty is a fine film. Don't get me wrong, but I think you could easily say any of the next 3 movies that The Insider, Cedar House Rules, or The Green Mile could have easily taken it. And probably should have taken it over American Beauty. It just has not aged well.
But speaking of aging well, this movie, for it to be 3 hours and 8 minutes long, it really does have a great pace to it. And for it to be like basically, a hard edged tearjerker drama, it flows quite well. You know what I mean?
So Titanic was shortly before this, correct?
1997.
Yeah. So Titanic was the first movie I saw that was 3 hours that didn't feel like it. Mm-hmm. This was the next one, and I think the one after that was Endgame. So like they haven't done it right since this movie.
Right.
What I was really impressed by is watching this yesterday again. It still feels good. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like this is a timeless movie.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah, I just because it's a period piece. It's a fantasy period piece, but it's a period piece. So I think you could watch this 20 years from now and not question the look of it.
Right.
Now, this movie was obviously a book written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Which most don't know that.
Yeah, most people don't know that this is definitely a Stephen King book. Same thing with your favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption, who's directed by the same director, Frank Darabont, directed The Green Mile. I don't know if you guys know this, but when The Green Mile was actually written and released, it was not written as one book. It was written in segments. And the reason why is because Stephen King literally said, every time I would read a book, I always turned to the last page to find out exactly what happens. And this time I really did not want to do that. He goes, so what I did was I left everything on a cliffhanger. So from March of 1996 until November of 1996, he would release the entire book into chapters, and then, or not chapters, but into segments, and then eventually the completed work ended in November 1996. So nobody knew how this was going to end until at the end of that year, and then obviously the movie comes along 3 years later. But this movie kicks off. We're actually in a retirement home.
1930. No, sorry.
No, we are in a retirement home here. The elderly Paul Edgecombe becomes emotional after watching the film Top Hat, which stars Fred Astaire as he's singing the song Cheek to Cheek, which, if you don't know the song Cheek to Cheek, you've obviously never listened to any movie.
And you've never watched this movie because Cheek to Cheek plays like 40 times. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way, but it plays so many times this movie. So
everybody's redone Cheek to Cheek from Sinatra.
Which I find incredibly funny about this opening scene because, hopefully when we get to that age where like, retirement home age, things are a bit more, better handled, so to speak, because in this scene, it's at least 20 people in this room watching this one TV, right?
Yeah.
And the guy gets up like, I want to watch something else. It's 19 other heads in here, bro. I don't want to watch this shit either,
Right.
But I found it to be quite funny. He goes, this I get down with when he gets to Top Hat.
Right, yeah, because initially he's watching 1999 Jerry Springer, which is like right in the middle of the prime of that show.
He's
like, all they ever do is talk about fucking.
I am hoping that when I am in a retirement home, I'm not flipping through channels and I get to what I guess a retirement home equivalent of VH1 is at that time. Right. And I flip to it and I don't hear "To the Windows." Or,
sweat drop down.
Daddy, who did you grow up with?
I remember this one.
You remember that old dirty bastard? Nobody came out with that.
But we're not too far removed from that, though. Let's be real. Like 50 Cent in the club is like a pop hit now. Right. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real about it.
As he becomes emotional with this, he's overshot by his companion Elaine, who Paul basically tells her that reminds him of his time working on the Green Mile, which is a cell block made for death row inmates. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's called the Green Mile is because it feels like the longest walk in the world, and also the floors are lime green.
Like a quite literal Green Mile. So this isn't like, what can the metaphor mean? Like, no, this is
literally the Green Mile.
Yeah, I think he explains it. It's normal everywhere else. It's called the last mile.
Yeah, right, the last mile.
Or the long mile.
The long mile, the last mile.
Yeah, and then but they're like, but we call ours the Green Mile because the tile's all green.
Right.
So he decides to kind of begin the story, and this movie shifts itself back to 1935. As Paul Edgecombe supervises Brutus, also known as Brutal, Hal, who is played by David Morse, Dean Stanton, who's played by Barry Pepper, Harry Telwilliger, I think that's how you say it, and the Harry he plays Dale in Walking Dead. That's exactly who he plays.
That is played by Jeffrey DeMunn.
Thank you. Jeffrey DeMunn, who also Dale from The Walking Dead, which, by the way, first season of Walking Dead was directed by Frank Darabont. So everybody's connected here. Why don't we have a Tom Hanks cameo in Walking Dead? Anyways.
And Percy Wetmore.
And Percy Wetmore, who is incredible and awful in this movie because he's so sleazy and disgusting, but you can't keep your eyes off of him.
He's sadistic, actually. He's one of those. Like, what is he? The nephew of the governor?
He's like the nephew of a governor, and he plays that cartoon.
Nephew of the governor's wife, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. And he really does play that. Like he plays it like, if you touch him, I make some phone calls, and I'm gonna get you fired, and da 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 da. And it's like, we'll get to it in a bit, but he's one of those characters. Like once he's on the screen, you hate him immediately.
But you can't keip your eyes off.
You can't help but look at him, though. Yeah.
That's how good he was in this movie. Mm-hmm. And they're at Cold Mountain Penitentiary, which is the penitentiary. And in their holding cells is Arlen Bitterbuck, who is played by a guy who always plays an Indian guy. Literally, in every other movie that I've seen, Indian guy, it's this gentleman. Wind River with Jeremy Renner. He was there. I'm never going to remember these guys' names. I know I should look it up.
I got you. You're doing better than I am.
I got you. Fact checker Jay today. I got you.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And Edward Delacroix, who's played by Michael Jeter, and one of the most amazing roles that he ever pulled off as well. Fun fact about Michael Jeter in this role. If you pick up on the language that he's speaking, he is purposely speaking with a French accent because that's where his character is from. Yeah. He literally hired a speech pathologist to teach him how to speak exactly in this manner, and he uses a lot of that influence in his speech, as you can tell, because he'll quickly switch to Cajun French real quick, and then back to English, as he's kind of a Weasley and Mouse kind of guy.
Anybody else spend time in Louisiana?
I have been to New Orleans.
I love that, and he does a great job.
He does a great job.
Cajun accent.
You wouldn't guess that he like. Oh, he's not from there. Like, no, you're like, he's definitely French Cajun. Like, even though he's the actor himself, probably
or French,
not.
or something. Yeah.
Now I know that. I think at the time of the Academy rules, you could only nominate one person for a movie. So obviously, they're going to give it to Michael Clarke Duncan because of how amazing he was in this role. But there is strong feeling of Michael Jeter also gained a nom, and he may actually get that guy aboard in this.
So Percy is brought on pretty early, as basically
he's already working there at the time.
I think they had him started.
No, he was already.
He was already officially on.
Yeah. He was already working there. He was always a pain in the ass there.
So he enjoys demonstrating his power and connections by harassing the prisoners and really the fellow guards who just feel like disgruntled by the job. No, he feels disgruntled by the job, so therefore he just to make everybody else's life a little better. We do learn that Paul, Tom Hanks, is suffering this severe bladder infection.
Man.
And it looks painful. God, it looks painful.
Every time he's sitting there and he's like in pain and you can just see it. I'm trying to imagine like what not necessarily what's going on down there, but I'm like imagining like everything's just twisted and it's like slowly unwinding itself.
I can say from personal experience that I think I felt something similar to this because I've had a rather large kidney stone that I passed. And I can only imagine the passing of the kidney stone is what it felt like for him every single time.
He said it was like razor blades.
Yes.
Yeah, it felt like razor blades.
Yeah. It definitely it definitely felt like that when I passed my stone.
No.
So he does get the news that he's going to get a new inmate today. The physically huge
and
imposing like this aura about him. Like the guy is just, Michael Clarke Duncan, may he rest in peace. I met him one time in LA.
He's 6'5",
and he is, never mind the height, he's just so big. Like
right,
he's as big as a truck.
But the way that they made John Coffey, who we get this introduction, first of all, his arms are enormous, and like everybody's immediately afraid because they're like, oh, this guy did something bad.
Well, I love the way they talk about the truck. They're like, is something wrong with the shocks?
Right. They're like, are the springs busted? He just steps off the truck. The truck just kind of bounces right back.
Like,
I was like, yeah, I've done that before.
It wasn't as cool when I did it.
It was like, did somebody get the forklift?
So this was some good tricks, kind of like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, right? Because he's only an inch taller than David Morse. Yeah. But they make him look like 8 inches taller, easy.
Yeah, I think he's an inch taller than David Morse, maybe like 2 inches taller than James Cromwell, who was equally just as big as everybody else.
Yeah, he's a giant also. But it was funny because Darabont was very clever here because he put the perspective to David Morse, who you already see he's a pretty good sized guy, right? And Tom Hanks, who hasn't seen him yet, was like, well, he can't be bigger than you.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then he steps through. Yeah. And it's very, very clever camera work that's here. Now, there were rumors that he was on stilts or something like that.
They never show his whole body.
No, they don't. They always
else.
cut it off at the knees at the very latest.
Especially when he's walking with them. Like you never see his whole body.
But another thing is they did very clever things with the camera and also some of the actors' ability. Because of the way that they had the camera showed, they had to make it seem like Michael Clarke Duncan was ducking down into the cell, making sure that he's kind of like always just a little bit hunched over because he never stood up straight until the final part of spoiler alert, his execution.
Right. So he's convicted of raping and murdering 2 young white girls.
Yeah.
And,
in this time period, that is, I mean, it's
any time period.
It's a heinous crime at
any time period. But at this time, there wasn't really big on like really discovering evidence or. Really they found him because Paul gets a chance to read the transcript as to how he got there, and they find him with the 2 girls crying his eyes out and simply saying, "I tried to save them, I couldn't save them."
He uses a distinct terminology. I couldn't take it back.
I couldn't take it back, and that comes into play later on as well.
Yeah, because it's reference to something special about him, not to him trying to unrape the girls or something.
Right. Now, does everybody know what everybody else like crimes did? Because in the movie they actually never mentioned it.
No.
So Del Delacroix was actually
they do for Wild Bill Wharton.
Yeah, for Wild Bill. Yeah, for Wild Bill, it was
wrong thing, but.
Right, but you never find out for Bitterbuck, who's played by Graham Greene, by the way. Yeah. And for Del was actually a rapist and a murderer himself.
Right.
Graham Greene, or Bitterbuck, which again kind of plays a little bit into possible racial tensions at the time because of his Indian heritage. Because they even talk about like his Indian heritage at his execution. Bitterbuck killed a man over a pair of boots. That was in the book. That is exactly what he's on death row for. Right. Killing a man over an argument over a pair of boots. So what winds up happening is as the movie continues on, we get the execution of Bitterbuck, and they kind of show the process of everything that's supposed to go on. And they really pay. This was really interesting to me, and even now, like even though I've seen the movie, like it's still fascinating to see. You know, you shave the head. And then you go, and you say certain lines to make sure the prisoner is there. One of the key things is that you have to wet the sponge. The sponge is tied tightly through the head, and then you say the magic words, which is roll on two after sentencing the man to die from a good standing judge. And the reason why for the wet sponge, obviously, is for a good conduit of electricity to pass through the body. Right. Doctor declares a man dead, and then that's pretty much how it's supposed to happen.
And that's, like you said, that's key, because they want to key in on how important every single one of those steps is. Not just, obviously later on in the movie why it's important to have the wet sponge, but every single one of those steps is being important. And they do it 2 or 3 times to like, you should know all these steps.
Yeah, it's crazy. They do a whole run through, which I thought was crazy. Like you practice this. This is insane.
Well, you kind of have to, because this not only that, but you don't want it to turn into a laughingstock. The execution of a man was not supposed to be a laughingstock, regardless of the color of that man at the time. It was supposed to be a very official order of business that happens from judge, jury, and execution.
So there was definitely, it's not a laughingstock. It is definitely like a Roman arena, cathedral kind of Colosseum kind of thing.
Correct. Yes.
Like they're here to enjoy watching somebody die.
Right.
Exactly. But and it was a little bit funny when they had Toot, who is another prisoner who is not on death row. He's just, I don't know. He's like the prison janitor that nobody like cares about. He probably gets away with more than enough things there.
They use him to like do the run throughs,
and he's just messing up. He's messing around, and like one of the things that he says is like, do you have any last words before you do so? And clearly Toot was supposed to shut the hell up. Right there. He's like, no, I want steak and eggs. I want gravy on my taters. I want Mae West to sit on my face. Like everybody's just dying. I couldn't help but start laughing as well. But obviously the seriousness of the situation comes up. Then we get to actual
Wild Bill.
We get to Bitterbuck's actual execution, and the execution goes off without a hitch. Mm-hmm. Percy, who has been having rumors of transferring to Briar Ridge. Thank you. Briar Ridge to work with mentally handicapped patients, wants to be front and center on the show. He just wants that one taste of that to show how sadistic he is. I mean, he's like pure. He's pretty evil, but
he's going from one sadistic thing to another. Like if he did transfer to the mental, it's just going to get worse.
And it's like what he would have did over there.
Well, what I think is great is that after he's done here, he's supposed to move on to a mental hospital, and that's important for the end. So
yeah, which I do love that.
Right. Yeah. So we then get the introduction to one of the best bad guys that you never actually see him do anything bad. We only see it within flashbacks, like an incarnation of pure evil in that case, and you could see it. And we get the introduction to Wild Bill William Wharton, who is played by none other than the legendary Sam Rockwell, who is absolutely fantastic. Now, this was my first introduction to. This was my introduction
to Sam Rockwell as well.
And so to kind of see him like later on, like ever since then, you would think that okay, well, this is a guy, he's going to get pigeonholed.
Oh no, not cutting you. Sorry, Galaxy Quest was my introduction to Sam.
No, I didn't see Galaxy Quest at that time.
I did.
I saw I forget what movie it was, but there's a movie that has Moon in the title.
It's called Moon.
It's called Moon.
Yeah, that was actually my first introduction to Sam Rockwell, which was crazy because you saw a lot of his junk in that movie, and I was not ready for that.
So you got the whole show is what you're trying to say.
That was the entire introduction to Sam Rockwell.
I got to know him. That's crazy.
I really enjoyed Moon. Moon was directed by Duncan.
Duncan Jones.
Yeah, and isn't he He's like the nephew or the son.
He's the son of.
I want to say David Bowie, but I'm wrong.
No, you be correct. He's the son of David Bowie.
Yeah, he is the actual. The director of Moon was the son of David Bowie. The legendary Wild Bill comes in, and the first thing that he pretty much does is he attacks a guard, and he decides to kind of ride him. And he actually attacks Stanton.
Yeah.
And he has him in a pretty good hold, but not enough to really kill him. We get Percy. By the way, Tom Hanks is like completely affected by this bladder infection. I mean, he's looking like he's ready to collapse at any given moment. That's pure fumes and adrenaline.
But it definitely shows how much of a coward Percy actually.
Oh God, this is one of the turning points of the movie for me. Like, I already hated this guy, and then you're like, this chicken shit.
You're doing
this
nothing.
is your job. Your job is to smack this guy with a billy club and end it.
You would think that because he seems like such a homicidal maniac kind of person, so you'd think he would relish the chance to use a weapon, but no, he's actually a complete coward.
He's scared shitless, and I love the fact that Wild Bill really brings it out of him.
Oh, absolutely.
In a few scenes down the road,
but.
Go ahead.
But as they apprehend Wild Bill, and as they get Stanton checked out, Tom Hanks collapses at that point, and I mean he's just like not feeling well. Now John Coffey, upon first seeing Wild Bill, decides to go ahead and demonstrate his supernatural powers. Calls over Boz Edgecombe. Calls him over. Grabs his crotch. Grabs his crotch. No doubt about it.
Dick twist.
Yeah, good old Dick twist. He's just sitting there and he's just holding it.
And going crazy.
Dale's losing his mind right now.
Dale's over here. What's going on? Trying to call everybody out. And lo and behold, everything kind of goes away.
What I thought was crazy about that particular part was as he grabs Paul, yanks him toward the cell, and
he reaches out, slams him against the bar.
He goes, "What do you want?" John Coffey goes, "To help." It just yanks him to the cell, grabs a nice handful of his nuts, right? And as this whole thing's going down, and he's trying to in a way fight back, but he obviously can't. But as things begin to happen, as he's the lights going off and all that type of shit, he's like, "What are you doing right now?" You know what I'm saying? And I love the fact that after that happens, and he what does he let out?
That's
like
the
little
question.
gnats.
Like little gnats,
right.
yeah. What is that?
Right. So it's almost like I kind of want it's Mortal Kombat 3's reptile spit is what it looks like.
I think it was like the negative spirit or
almost
something like that. But
or the disease itself, the cells coming from the disease all clumped up together and spit it out.
Right. So by the time we get to that next scene, and he's like, he's looking like, the hell did you do to me? He goes to the bathroom and he just pees like it's nothing.
And there's a sense of relief
on his face. You felt that relief. Like, oh, thank you.
If I had to go to the bathroom right at that moment, I kind of just wanted to go.
I have never had a pee like that before.
Afterwards, it just kind of sound like a horse.
Like he had the hand on the wall and just everything.
Afterwards, comes home to his wife. He
literally does too. He was
right.
I have had a good day.
Comes home to his wife. He's all like, "Hey, I can pee good now. So let's see what else I can do good."
That's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. As small as that little scene is, because when he comes home and he's feeling himself now.
Oh yeah.
And so as he comes home, I feel better. So the camera pans out the house and he's going to town on his wife. Right, this is at night. Morning time. Same shot, but going back to the house now. And they're still going at it, right? I'm like, good for you, Paul. Good for you.
I like it because Bonnie Hunt, who's obviously, been with him kind of through this entire crisis. By the way, she totally got pregnant on that one because they had their first child in 1935.
Yeah. Yes.
So I like it because she's like, Paul, not that I'm complaining, but we haven't done it 4 times throughout the night since we were 19 years old. And I'm like, you know what?
Cardio, baby.
Good for you, Paul. Cardio. A lot of work just got unleashed there.
But based off of what John Coffey did to Paul, has Paul definitely curious as to what is it about this cat? How is he doing this?
He's thinking, what in the hell actually just happened?
Right. And so he takes a day off to kind of go more into learning more about John Coffey and how he ended up on the Green Mile. And I think
so he travels out to he travels out to the lawyer of John Coffey, Hammersmith, who is played by Gary Sinise,
Lieutenant Dan Forrest Gump,
Lieutenant Dan himself, and essentially kind of speaks with him about what's going on, and you know, you kind of get this sense already from Paul, mainly from the nice demeanor that John Coffey is portraying, as well as everything else, that he's really starting having a lot of doubts about this story of him being able to harm two little girls and rape him at this time. And
really just commit such a heinous crime for such a gentle soul that he is.
But there was something that Gary Sinise said there, and it kind of, on the second time this latest time that I viewed it, it kind of stuck with me. And he said, don't
dog reference,
right? The dog reference. He's like, don't you turn your back on him, because he will find a way to come out and get you when you least expect it. And that kind of played a role like later on, because I'm like, if it was me in that position, in that role, being a long-time prison guard, and I'm getting this demeanor from this guy, and all of a sudden he just snaps and decides to attack. I don't know if I can stop him. But there was a certain different ways of demeanor, and here's how. One, when Wild Bill, who showed his antics, you know, and you know, did everything from the spitting up the moon pie to pissing all over the guy's floor. This is right when they're throwing him into the padded cell. But when he attacks Percy, like his first real time, and actually gets a hold of him, you know, makes Percy basically piss himself at that time. The first thing that Tom Hanks does is actually pull his gun and pull it on him and point straight at his face. And Wild Bill was like, there's nothing that you can do to scare me from that.
Even though I hate Percy and he got everything he got coming to him, even in that moment, like, I am uncomfortable for you, bro.
Right.
I don't tell it what you're feeling because you're going through, but the way Wild Bill,
like Rockwell kissed him on his head, and I'm like,
bro, he rubbed his asshole, bro. It's like, I felt disgusted just watching that scene. I'm like,
These are two evil people that
trying to
hate
rub each other. Yeah, you know, so.
Right. But one of them is evil in the sense of neutral almost. Yeah. Right. You know, where he's evil, but he's not.
He's a coward.
He's more of a coward more than anything else. He can't stand up for himself. Whereas Wild Bill
is evil.
is a chaotic entity. You know, he's not going to listen to anybody's orders. All he wants to do is cause chaos anywhere that he can, and there's going to be zero good that comes out of it.
Right.
You know, and looks for it in selfish manners, which a lot of chaotic people do. You know, and use it to his own advantage.
Also, in this time, you mentioned the storage closet. So now we now have Mr. Jingles,
right?
Which is the rat that was in the storage closet that they actually cleared.
He's a mouse.
He's a mouse. You're right. let me not disrespect the rat community. My bad. He's a mouse, and they cleared out. We
can't disrespect Tekashi 6ix9ine now.
Hey, that's a whole different thing. But he's grown a liking to Dell. Dell keeps him as a pet, and you kind of, and it's crazy. I know what's going to happen later on. It's going to happen, and once again, I fucking hate Percy. But when you know, they're working out the deal so where Percy can work that front. Basically for Dell's execution, which is like, why would you put him for Dell's execution? You know how he feels about Dell.
Right.
You know?
Especially because Percy had broken Dell's fingers.
And then Dell made fun of him after Wild Bill grabbed him.
But, you know, they knew that they wanted him off the mile.
Yeah.
And he swears up and down that he's going to be true to his word. Mm-hmm. And I don't really think he was ever going to rescind that. I actually think he was going to put in the transfer. It's just he wanted the whole experience. I mean, he wanted the $50 bag and then the receipt afterwards, man.
Right. And Dell just took a liking to this mouse and really
taught him a trick.
Taught him a little trick.
Great trick. That was a great trick too.
It really was. And the thing was, like, you know for a fact Percy's up to no good. So when he comes and he goes, oh yeah, Dell has himself a little pet's gonna call himself Mr. Jingles, and you know, what do you think? And he goes, oh yeah, he should totally let's give him a box, a whole cigar box, and put him in there. Like, I don't buy you, bro. I don't buy your this whole being nice shit you're on right now.
It kind of shows he's not an idiot.
Yeah,
he's kind of cunning.
I was just gonna say that he did just enough bad to where it wasn't illegal, and he's not gonna get in trouble for it. But you're like, God, you're such a dick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't trust you for shit.
But he did say, but you kind of again, and this is where it just becomes good writing. One of the things that Boss Edgecombe wanted Percy to do is to keep the inmates calm and almost be not necessarily nice but respectful to them. Yeah. So it kind of seemed like that Percy, and even though we as the audience feel differently towards him, every actor in that room would have felt like, well, maybe he's finally turned a corner at that point. Even if you knew how the story was going to play out, that's what the emotion's supposed to be played out, because even everybody else like in that room was like, okay, this is that's just good writing.
Yes. Now, also in the same sentence, Percy comes across Mr. Jingles and steps on him.
I mean, just
crushes him.
No, Steve, I was just like, steps on him, isn't it? He stomps on him.
Stomps him out.
I mean, it was so clear
and
so
then
fast.
That part is enraging because you feel for Dell at that point, because like the fuck, that's my mouse, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like you really do feel for that, and I felt that for sure, like absolutely.
Jeter's reaction to it almost immediately played it so well because the first thing he does, now mind you, if a prisoner escapes out of their cell, technically guards are allowed to use whatever means necessary to put him back into his cell, including beating them, beating them or even shooting them if necessary, as long as medical treatment is allowed. So Dell goes and he just doesn't have, this is a mouse, let's keep in mind that, but this is a pretty special mouse, as you can tell, breaks down and you see his entire body flushing red, just like this emotion of blood going throughout his entire body and that blood curdling scream of no, and he just goes and comes out, and of course Brutal and Edgecombe go ahead and put him back into his cell in that process. But then we get the supernatural powers of
John
now
Coffey.
Can bring back things from the dead.
John
Coffey.
And so he says, give them to me, there may still be time. Can we just say how awesome Michael Clarke Duncan is in this role?
He is amazing.
He's awesome in this role. May he rest in peace, man.
Every single line was spoken so slowly, but so clear. Like
it was an uneducated, and I'll say that.
Yeah.
It was an uneducated, soft, but you could not listen to it.
You made a great point the other day when we had talked about on the phone, is which, like, with John Coffey in physical presence, is an uneducated black man from the South.
Yeah.
But as far as internally, he's practically Jesus.
Yeah, he is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in form of this man.
Right. I mean, his John Coffey JC.
Right.
That was kind of something that I think King was trying to imply.
And I do love the fact that. Yeah.
But they obviously were implying otherwise, because clearly they were referencing Jesus a couple of times because of praying and things like that.
So they pick up Mr. Jingles, give him to John Coffey, let him his magical breath of resurrection, and then Jingles is back, and it's but now he's done it in front of Brutal, the other prison guards. They've now see what he can do,
and that is a double special scene, because something happened. Well, that scene actually plays a part in the very end of the movie too, because something else special happens with that scene right there. But I just wanted to mark that,
right,
100%.
Now, the next scene, though, I think was a little hilarious, because what's the next thing they do? Almost immediately afterwards, they give the mouse back to Dell, right? Actually, he just falls right out of the hands and goes running back to Dell.
But the next scene is basically Dell's execution.
Nope. The next scene is actually they tell Percy. They're like,
right.
What are you talking about? The mouse is completely fine. Like nothing.
I heard the sound of a bitch crush.
Like I heard. Like, goddamn, I heard him crush under my foot. And they're like, and they're playing it so well. And David Morse, the way that kind of plays off Tom Hanks, and this is really good. They're like, no, he's perfectly fine. He's up dancing around right now. And of course, Percy goes to check, no problem. And then he has so many questions, goes right back to them, and then they threaten him immediately.
Before the threat, when do we have time to switch out the dead mouse for a live mouse just to fuck with you?
Right, you switched out the mouse. Switched out the mouse and figured out how to teach him all those tricks in the 2 minutes? In 2 minutes?
And I mean, this is up there with, like, I've heard some pretty terrifying threats, but the threat they gave him in this scene was, I mean, if that was me, I would have peed my pants again, I guess. I don't
Right, because they're all like, yeah, we know.
If you ever touch that mouse again, he's like,
right. If you ever touch the mouse again.
Never mind us, the mouse.
But of course, we have to get the fulfillment of why Percy was there, and we get the execution of Dell. And another thing that they kind of did, which we didn't really discuss, was obviously for some of the prison, they're not going to go through the walkthrough with the actual person because. No, why would I?
I'm not gonna do a rehearsal.
I'm not gonna do it. Why am I gonna do a rehearsal
for my execution?
For my execution.
This is a one and done for me, baby.
Time to make this look good. No. You know what I'd be doing? I'd be messing with everybody every single step of the way, and then I'd be crying the entire time. They decided again to do it with two. But one of the things that they did was they had to make sure that the prisoner did not know that they actually rehearsed their own execution. So so with Bitterbuck, his family was there, but Dell doesn't have family. So they had to say, oh, no. We're really interested in doing the whole Mouseville, thing, because they told this really clever little story of Disney World, basically. Mouseville and Tallahassee, Florida.
That's a powerful scene.
It is.
That's a really, because I feel like that Delquan knows they're lying to him. Like, Mouseville is not a real place.
Yeah. But he believes the story so well because he trusts it, even as he's getting ready for his own execution. He even tells both of them straight up, "You two are good people.
Yeah,
Brutal and Edgecombe.
I wish we would have met on different circumstances."
Yeah, exactly.
I thought David Morse did such a good job. Like, he doesn't have a lot of lines, but he has this presence, and he just feels like this stable, comforting role of support to Tom
he's
Hanks.
definitely Paul's number 2 guy, and he's very humble and he gives off this feeling of like that's the guy that you trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
To at least get the job done.
He can literally go. Tom Hanks literally will go to him and say, "I need you to have my back on this, whatever we're doing." And David Morse is there with a shovel ready in hand to bury the body.
Let's go. Again, though, they did that. He went to him and he was like, I need you to just trust me on this.
Right.
And that's when I think the next scene that's coming up.
Right. So,
a side story that we haven't really talked about is the warden's wife.
Oh,
right. They've been kind of like slipping little bits and pieces.
So it is after the execution.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Well, but they'd mentioned it the whole ways.
Right.
Along the way, we get the introduction. So real quick, so we're going to slightly backtrack here. We get the introduction of James Cromwell, who is the warden of the store, and he is married to Pamela Clarke, who is
played by Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah, sorry, he's married to Patricia Clarkson.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Who the hell is Pamela Clarke?
I don't know.
He's just making up names
here. And basically, she is suffering from illness. You come later to find out it's a brain tumor that's inside the brain that's about the size of a lemon. Yeah. And that's just all sorts of... Now, again, I don't know. I don't think that 20 years ago they even really considered like what a normal size of a brain tumor is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because if you get something that's like bigger than a dime, that's like really bad news. No, they said a lemon, and so
you should be dead at this point.
So I have a lime tree at my home. So I'm like doing the comparison. I'm like that's just
that doesn't fit in my head.
No, that should not be in there inside my brain. So that's where I kind of question the writing a little bit. But
yeah, a little bit.
We get Dell's execution.
X-ray technology back then,
right? Yeah, nobody knows. What it looks like. What's that? Is that the brain? Cerebrum. What is that?
Dell's execution, which is
horrifying.
Horrible to watch. It's horrible.
It was rough to watch even now.
And then even though you have Percy in the front commanding the whole thing, for a fact he's going to do something, because even before he does what he does, but he goes, "Hey, just to let you know, Mousefield is not a real place." Like, you dick. The The man's getting ready to die. Like, there was no point in that. But to take it a step further than that and not wet the sponge on purpose, right? Just to see what would happen. You feel what I'm saying? And so by the time we get to the actual carrying out of said execution, it's a horror show.
And it doesn't stop.
And it doesn't. Yeah. It keeps going.
No, because they had to make sure he's dead.
Yes, he has to die.
And you're seeing it, and you're seeing, obviously, you're not really seeing. You're seeing sparks, but you're seeing like the headdress catch on fire because the sponge is dry, has no way to conduce electricity, and sponges are very flammable when they're dry. So his entire head catches on fire.
And he's moving.
And he's moving, and he can't get out of it. And you're seeing blue flames coming out from the nose hole, and the screaming coming out. Oh God, it was
to the point where Paul grabs Percy and makes him watch. Like you did this shit.
He's like, you did this shit. No, you're fucking watching. Yeah,
watch the whole thing.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, I kind of almost wanted to see like a mercy kill there. Right. Like you have your guns. Why can't you just shoot? Yeah. You know, why could at that point
that part hurt a little bit. Like, just turn it off and just shoot him. Shit.
Yeah, I mean, you still get the same result. What was even harder afterwards was you see the body, and the body is charred. Yeah. You know, beyond recognition. But they have to find a way to cover for Percy because they were all in the room and they all could have done something about it, but they had to cover for Percy. So of course Cromwell comes down and he's like, what in the goddamn hell was that? You know, and they were like, a successful execution. And so like, what was successful about that? Well, Delacroix is dead. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, he's dead. He's cooked. He's brain fried, literally. But the fact that you know, the showcase of it, and the fact that they had to cover for Percy in the process, just it's so freakish.
It makes you upset because
it does.
They have to.
I was upset afterwards.
And they really only have to cover from because of, you know, the government and how they are, you know, looking at these executions. And, you know, even though you hate this particular officer, you got to keep this going.
Well, not only that, but if they actually get him in too much trouble, he might not be able to get transferred anymore.
Exactly. So then he's stuck there, and who knows what he could do to another prisoner? Might as well let him with the mental patients because hey, who cares about them?
So
we don't think
that leads into sucker punch. That's
right.
What I'm saying.
Good point.
So Percy is later. Oh, this is before or after they go visit the warden's wife.
This is kind of during because they need to find a reason.
Right.
Because they need to basically find a reason to get everybody there. So the first thing they did,
it kind of goes quick at this point.
Yeah, it does. It does speed up a little bit because what basically happens is that they drug Wild Bill.
Well, they go to dinner. He goes to dinner to.
Yes.
And sees the wife.
Correct.
And that's what prompts him to be like, no, we got to do something.
Right.
That would I point out too. This was I don't know why. I've never known anybody who's had a condition like this at all, but this particular scene was just hard to watch when you're like, you know, deep down this woman is a sweet woman and she's just, because of this tumor, she's just losing her damn mind.
Absolutely.
About everything. And it's just,
even at the barbecue, you know, Cromwell even said, yeah, this is one of her good days. What?
Yeah.
That's one of her good days. Well, yeah, when you have a lemon tumor, you know, inside your head.
But you can see the fact that Cromwell and Hanks have this friendship that kind of goes beyond the jail thing. It's almost like we've been friends for quite some time. So watching your wife go through this affects me as well. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So that's why the idea of even bringing John Coffey to at least try to make something happen. Like, you know, you are breaking the law, for sure. But at the same time, I want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you know what Coffey can do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So they drug Wild Bill, and I always found this scene a little bit funny because they were like, is that enough? They were like, I don't know. And they decided to pour like 2 more in there. like no, we don't really care. If he
he's probably dead already.
If he dies of OD, who cares?
Whatever.
If he dies before his execution, who really cares? And then they ambush Percy, you know, tie gag into his mouth, and clear Scotch tape, which I had a problem with because clear Scotch tape was not invented until the 1980s. That totally would have been brown at that time.
And it wouldn't have worked.
Exactly. It wouldn't have worked at the time.
Because the adhesive wasn't like
exactly.
Yeah.
The only adhesive they could use at the time was actual medical gauze at the time that could only work because they did it with spoons all the time.
That tape had only been invented like 4 years earlier, and it was still crappy.
Right. So, but they tie him up and they throw him into the padded cell, which I'm like, good for you, Percy. That's kind of where you belong. Get John out of there, and it was really interesting because at this point, the only things that we've seen from John Coffey is what he's done in the cell. What happens when freedom is presented to him? Right. What does he plan on doing? And he
Brutal makes that quite obvious. Like, listen, if he runs, we have to shoot him.
Absolutely. And Brutal was even like, we have to go there with shotguns. We have to go there with shotguns.
I don't think a pistol's going to stop that guy.
No, he must be shot.
And they get there, and Coffey does a couple of great things here. I think it's either grass or moss or something, and he decides to take a sniff of it, like what a sniff of freedom kind of seems like. And to be fair, if I was a prison guard, I'd be a little worried because this is already a very risky plan. But
I like that they smell it too.
Yeah, they do too. They're like, here, smell this. He smells it's all dog shit. Oh,
I just keep imagining he's holding it out like, here, you smell it, and then he just starts running. He's
like,
oh shit, get him!
He's like, here, you smell it. Shoves it into him and he starts taking it off.
This was a different movie.
They get to Cromwell's place, and after some kind of tension. By the way, Cromwell was pointing down the barrel of his shotgun to Coffey.
This was kind of a weak point in the movie, I think. I didn't really understand. I don't know. I mean, the way that John Coffey moves forward and he's holding the shotgun, and I just didn't feel like Paul did a good enough job convincing him, hey, this is going to work out. It's, you want to deal through this. I don't know.
I don't think he actually brings up what Coffey can actually do.
Exactly. He doesn't even try it.
We're just here to help.
He's just like,
help do what?
Your wife's going to go upstairs into my boy here, the big black guy that we just brought. He's going to go upstairs to your sick wife and he's going to make her feel all better.
I've seen many memes about this.
So, but Coffey doesn't do what our demented minds are thinking here. And decides to kind of try to heal her. And this was an incredibly powerful scene.
This is a great scene.
Probably one of the best, if not the best scene in
especially
the movie.
when he's trying to convince the warden, listen, just trust me on this one. We can really help. And she's upstairs just in pain.
The makeup they did on her, they made her look so old and so close to death.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
I actually paused it and rewound it so I could compare the look before and after. And she, I was like, wow. I thought they switched out actresses.
It looked like they did, yeah.
This is the real Disney de-aging process. Right?
That's the Disney.
We make you as sick as possible, and then we put you back into normal self.
Yeah.
And in this process, Coffey explains, doesn't really explain who he is. He just says, my name is John Coffey, like the drink, but
she says that.
But no, he says it first, and then she repeats it back to him when she gets better. Only when she gets better, but to make him feel like trusted. The next thing she says is, "How did you get all those scars?" And he just says, just walks of life. The acts of life that happened through to me, and he goes, "I'm going to try to help you now." And the process begins, and this is where I got to give credit to the director here, because it couldn't just be the same. It couldn't just be, okay, well, you're better now. It couldn't Disney. It had to Disney. And so what I mean by that is they had to live the moment. So one of the things they did was they're not really showing Coffey healing. They're showing the crowd. They're showing the witnesses. Then you see the house shake. You see roof ceiling come off the top,
light up,
light up.
I actually have a problem with this scene.
Really,
and it's that one. And I don't know if it's going to sound weird, but you're ranking the stuff that he's done. So he's done something small. He's taken an infection away from from Paul at the beginning, and then Mr. Jingles, and then taking this tumor out. I think those are swapped. Mr. Jingles was dead.
Well,
and now granted, it's a small creature,
and that's where the difference is. The difference,
but it's dead. You're still resurrection versus.
But we don't know how powerful. Yeah. But we don't know how much his power represented. We saw him brought back to life, but only because he had enough time. Earlier in the film, we saw they could not bring back life from two small humans, so we don't know if that was the extent of his powers. Yep. So to see it afterwards, where he goes and he takes this life-ending tumor, basically. And no, she's not on her last day in
she's
theory,
but quite close,
but she's there.
But a lemon is bigger than that mouse.
That's why it was a lemon. There you go.
But you know,
and this is also the first time he actually does a healing, and it affects him.
Right. Well, no, because he felt other things, like even with Dell, when Dell was getting electrocuted, because of theory time, because of the connection that Dell had with the mouse, he was feeling the electrocution as well.
Right, he said, "I felt it."
Right, because he said he says, "I felt it." But what was impressive about this afterwards was afterwards you could see that you may have actually seen the limit to John Coffey's power at that point, because he is not looking well. He's looking sick. You know,
and what does he say here? The best line of the movie that he says twice. I'm tired, boss.
Yeah,
exactly. You can tell.
We forgot one small thing. As they're walking out Coffee, Wild Bill does wake up from his little sedation.
Yep, and
he grabs John Coffey's arm.
Right,
and it's almost like it's a connection right then and there, which we'll get to in a second. Right. But I love how that and Coffee, he's looking like, well, it was you the whole time.
Right.
I love that.
Because he does have that look. So eventually Coffee is led back into his cell. She clears up. And I mean, everything clears up. Yeah. Like everything, you know, whatever disease that was affecting you completely clears up. And she's so grateful and so honest and so pure with her that you can't help but think, man, this could not have happened to a better lady. Yep. like because the only things that we've gotten from her is that you're sick and you're awful when you're sick. I hate to see when your period comes around because you are awful.
Like an old crazy shrew person, right? You just
yeah. And so your only connection to her as an audience member at that time is that oh well, it's too bad that you're sick. You're probably going to die soon. Right. You know, but to see her come back being so pure and almost gracious and overly gracious, gives the necklace of Saint Christopher to him, who is the patron saint of travelers, to him, and just showing how grateful she is that she gets to have a little bit of her life back. Mind you, she barely remembers the last few days. She knows that she had an X-ray. She doesn't know what was there. Cromwell's like in tears.
Did we see how much longer she lives after this? I forget how much longer she.
No, I don't think we see her again after that scene.
Yeah,
no, I think that's the last time that we actually see her.
I felt like that was kind of important, maybe to mention, but
I mean, we can definitely talk about that a little bit later in the theory crafting behind it. But I think there's a reason why she doesn't get anything.
Okay,
so
I'll talk about that.
They lead him back to his cell, and he is pretty distraught, pretty sick. But, of course, they kind of have to make things run normal again. So the first thing they do is they get Percy out of there. And
wait, he was holding it the whole time, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's inside him at this time.
Yeah, so he's holding it the entire time. That's why he looks like crap.
And they told him to cough it out. And the audience at this point is thinking, okay, he's going to cough it out. And how massive is this swarm of gnats or whatever going to look like? And he doesn't.
He never does.
So you think it's the limit of his powers, he's going to die or something.
Right. So you're thinking, no, this can't be the way that John Coffey dies. Right? No, this can't be. Not with something like this. So they get Percy. They're able to convince Percy to kind of put up or shut up, put a new transfer.
Let bygones be bygones.
Let bygones be bygones. You're out of here anyway. As Percy walks out, looks over to John Coffey. John Coffey's standing and reaches out and grabs him and pulls him in. And that is where the Gary Sinise line kind of played back into me, because now you're like, what is he doing? Like he's committing an act. It looks like it's evil, but Edgecombe knowing the powers that he has, does not pull his gun on him, which is where the difference between those two characters are. But Percy does give him the disease that's in there, and it basically fries his brain. Yep. That's literally exactly what happens. It fries his brain, but in the process, Percy walks over to Wild Bill's cell, Sam
who already hated,
who we also hate as well. And Wild Bill says, "You want to kiss my ass? You want to suck my dick?"
Right.
And Percy pulls out his gun and just unloads on him, killing Wild Bill.
No, it's something about that scene. There's definitely some satisfaction there for sure, but it's more so he fries his brain to the point to where he's so had a psychotic breakdown to where he doesn't know what's going on. So really, it's the trigger of Wild Bill saying anything to him, and maybe even remembering just that one time where Wild Bill threatened him and he scared the boy when he pissed himself.
That's right.
It's it has to be the feeling. It can't be the thought process. It has to be the feeling.
I also think that this was necessary too. Wild Bill dying before John Coffey goes, because if there is any information that we lead up to that could help John Coffey here, it's now gone.
Right. So,
because I feel like John Coffey knew, like, you can't save me, and that's the reason why he shows Paul exactly what he now knows
which
Wild
is
Bill.
Where the next scene comes in, because of course Paul's trying to figure this out. Like you were cool, like you had your opportunity to go if you really wanted to. There was no way we could really stop you. In theory, you saved a woman, then you decide to go and basically cause the death of Wild Bill. Why did you decide to do this? Why did you decide to have this justice? And he decides to show the story of, come to find out, the entire reason why John Coffey was holding these two girls is because Wild Bill, and in the most creepiest line, this line kills me. It says, if you love your sister, you don't scream, because if you scream, I'm going to kill her. If you love your sister, you don't scream, because if you scream, I'm going to kill her, because they're twins, obviously.
Yep.
Obviously, the obvious thing happens, and he more than likely rapes and kills these two girls. These two little girls. So come to find out, the entire catalyst to this was Wild Bill the whole time, and Coffey was trying to bring them back to life to the best of his ability, just like he felt like he could, with Mr. Jingles, as he knew his power. So either he was disappointed, I believe he was more disappointed with himself, and horrified at the scene that he could not save the innocent lives, and he had no way to basically find his own justice in that, and that's why he was caught and kind of accepted literally everything from that point.
Now the irony with Percy, going back to what we mentioned earlier, he's supposed to go to work for Briar Ridge Insane Asylum.
Oh, he shows up at Briar Ridge.
He goes to Briar Ridge for sure, but now he's a good old patient.
He got them good old slippers on too.
He shows up to Briar Ridge hugging himself and hasn't stopped since.
He stands there and just blinks for an unknown amount of time.
Which comes to the second most powerful scene in my eyes in this movie is what do you do with John Coffey? This is clearly an innocent man, no matter what way that you try to color it, and a good man in this case. What would you try to do? Jay, go ahead and take it off from this one, because I know you can capture this emotion.
Wait, where are we?
Where Edgecombe speaks with Coffey. So in the cell the day before his execution.
Yes. Okay. So he believes Coffey to be a miracle of God.
He tells this to his wife, right? His wife doesn't have much except his kind of exposition to allow the audience to hear what Paul is thinking.
Yeah, she's kind of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
At that point, like she's just kind of she has her inputs into there, but he is a miracle of God.
Yeah, and Paul's definitely struggling with the notion of eventually this man's going to die.
What would you do?
What do you do? Do you let him go?
This is a miracle of God, literally right in front of you, saved lives, and is a good, innocent man. Me as a prison guard, knowing this, what would I do? Would I risk my own job, which he was willing to do for him to let him escape and before he's eventually, because he's an enormous black man. in Louisiana, he's eventually going to get caught.
He's not going to hide very well.
No, he's not.
Can you find the 8-foot
He's
monster?
not.
Can you find Bigfoot running around Louisiana?
He's in the back of that big ass truck, actually. But
So she's like, "Have you asked him?" That's what she says, right? She says, "Have you asked him what he wants?"
right. And that's where a beautiful scene actually comes into play because once again, Brutal, who is like the number 2, behind Paul, he says there's got to be something that you want, and all he wants is to watch a movie.
Oh, he's never seen a flicker before.
He's never seen a movie before ever. So what they do is they take some room, a flicker. I've never seen a flicker before. They take this room inside the prison and pretty much create what appears to be a movie theater.
Yeah.
And put on that movie Top Hat.
Top Hat.
And you see the joy in John Coffey just watching this movie, and then you see the joy in Paul watching the joy in John Coffey, and then Brutal and the other two, and they're just like, this isn't right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you do feel that they feel like what we're getting ready to do is wrong, but at the same time, who's going to say this man is not innocent? Because the only way we can prove his innocence, dead. You feel what I'm saying?
And even if they could, show your power to somebody else, what happens then?
Yeah, how are you then perceived then?
Yeah,
My personal favorite scene is that I really get the feeling that John Coffey is more concerned about the pain Paul is feeling.
Right.
And he's trying to make Paul feel better. He's like, I'm tired, boss. Like,
right.
I want to have, I'm tired of being alone on the road. I'm tired of not having a buddy. Which I kind of thought was references to kind of like Tale of Two Cities, kind of like.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's or of Mice and Men.
Mice and Men. That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant.
I think he was just really ultimately he was just tired of dealing with the cruelty of humanity. He was ready to go.
He did say that. He said I'm tired, boss, because people are so ugly to each other.
To each other. Yeah.
And it's like I hear that. And I hear that in 202019. And I'm like,
we hear it very well here.
I'm like, God, John Coffey. I wish he would see what today would have turned out been, and how you kind of made the right choice there.
Kind of an important line when he's describing Wild Bill Wharton is he used their love against him.
Right.
Right. And so he's like, and he says something along the lines of, people do that all the time, or people always use their love against them.
Right.
Right.
Am I remembering correctly too? In Wild Bill hates being called Wild Bill.
No, he hates being called the other guy, the sheriff.
I remember him saying that there was I thought it was a name he hated.
Maybe he does hate it.
I don't know.
I thought he hated the William. I don't know. I think he preferred Wild Bill. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But
so
he did make a reference to it. I just don't remember.
I don't remember what it was.
The next day is the execution, and it's a powerful scene because
It's the
everybody's
rollout.
emotions are in their face. And Coffey sees this clearly, and he actually says the line, "It's okay. It's okay, guys. This is what was supposed to happen."
Right.
And goes and he talks about like what his last meal he would have loved to have with okra, and
More cornbread
and more of that fine cornbread. That your
Just
wife makes.
the walk of the Green Mile to the execution room, and while the guards are just kind of going through these emotions, like this is wrong.
This is wrong. Yeah.
Coffee's like, hey man, let's just bang it out, man. Let's just call it what it is.
He's not like that. He's
well,
just like,
he's not happy about it. No, but
hey man, like
but he's
I'm the
definitely
main attraction today.
But
No,
he definitely has not accepted the fate that you can't escape this fate.
Right.
It's gonna happen regardless.
And the hardest part for this was you're seeing all the faces there, and of course they had to do the walkthrough with somebody else, obviously. Yeah. And so one of the parts of the walkthrough was putting the hood over the face. And mind you, at this point, you're getting the mother and father of the two little girls
who think that this is the one who killed their daughters.
Exactly, who thinks it's one that's killed them. Shouting just these awful and ugly things to him. Which
kill him twice,
right? Which does make sense in the sense of this was the actual guilty person.
He's
but
like,
it wasn't.
they all hate me.
Right? They all hate me, and they say, well, just look at us. Just look at us.
There's
We
another
don't hate you.
great line for David Morse.
Exactly.
Another moment where he just kind of this.
the tension is up, and he's able to release that cool.
He had very few lines, but it seemed like every single time he spoke a line, it was poignant, and it was written there for him for that reason.
Absolutely.
So
like
sit him down into the chair, and the emotions are all there.
The customary hood to not get. He doesn't want to be put in the dark.
Please, boss, don't put that hood over me. I'm afraid of the dark. So now you have to look at his face
and watch him die.
And you have to watch him die, and you get this moment with Tom Hanks, and he's choked up. He can't say the final line, which is roll on two, and more says,
even before that, he literally he gets them all set up to roll on one part. So you watch and it's small but it's so effective. When he goes to roll on one, you watch all the lights kind of light up because the next thing he says is roll on two, which is the electricity.
And he goes and he walks, and Morse goes and he says, boss, we have to go through with this. And instead, what he does was he goes and he walks up to him and he shakes his hand as a sign of respect to him. And obviously, the audience in the room probably had, what the fuck is going on here?
I feel like he lost his job shortly thereafter.
Obviously he transferred out, but
he would have.
He probably would have lost his job there. Shook the hand and then choked up, and he says it very low. He says, roll on two. And of course it kicks off with the magical powers that John Coffey has. All the lights go out, no problem. And there's so many exploding light bulbs in this movie.
What I loved is they didn't show John Coffey.
No.
They showed Paul's face.
Watching him go. Yeah.
Because he was he was the one in pain.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy, he had the wet sponge. I mean, he was just gone.
Right. By the way, also took off the cross of Saint Christopher, or the medallion of Saint Christopher off of him because it's metal, obviously, for those purists out there. And that was the end of John Coffey. Right. The next scene, you actually see him on the table. So again, effective scene because you weren't sure, but you had to be sure. And you see the corpse laying there, puts a cross right back on him, and puts it over him. It cuts all the way back to 1999 afterwards, and basically he's telling the story to Elaine, and he said the story. Afterwards we transferred out. Me and Brutal, we transferred out. And we went to a boys' penitentiary, and was correctional officers until we basically retired up to that point. But Elaine doesn't believe the story.
Who would?
Yeah. This is 1999. You're talking about 1935. That was 60 years ago.
Well, plus she's like, she does the math and she's like, well, wait, that.
You had a grown son in 1935. You told me you had a grown son. Yeah, I've never known you to be a liar.
That math doesn't work.
Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about was while old Paul Edgecombe is what I'm just going to call him. He would actually kind of sneak out at night and walk his way to a little cabin into the woods. Now, that wasn't necessarily mentioned, but he says, I want to show you something. Decides to take him out to this cabin. And he says, and if you look closely right over there, you'll see the story. And you see a cigar box from 1935. And in there is an incredibly old Mr. Jenkins. Or Mr. Jingles. Mr. Jingles that's there.
And it gets revealed that at the time when he met John Coffey, he was 44. He is now 108.
Exactly.
Because of the healing power that Coffey had a long-term effect on both Paul and Mr. Jenkins.
See, he actually says because he had to give him a part of him.
Right.
So the healing didn't give him the long life. Mm-hmm. It was actually when he grabbed him and gave him the memories, that actually gave him some of his powers.
Right.
And the same thing with Mr. Jingles. Healing Mr. Jingles didn't give him the long life.
It was the fact of sharing the experience with Delacroix.
Yeah,
is how Jingles is still alive, basically.
And that's what I was.
I see. Say. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So he might have healed a lot of people through his life, but I don't think he created a bunch of
immortals.
Right. And it kind of makes sense because if you think about how he was trying to say, "I try to take it back," he very likely probably resurrected somebody before, but he was too late at this time. So probably his most powerful thing would be resurrection at that point. But. And this was sad because he says, and I will watch. He says to him, "I watched everybody die before me. I watched Bonnie Hunt, who apparently I can't remember her name. My boy
Jan.
I watched Jan die. I watched my boy pass away, which is tough because he would only be in his 60s at that point. I watched everybody pass away, from Brutal to everybody on the mile, and I'm here all alone here, and I feel like this is a curse. Because of the ugliness.
He's like, I'm going to watch you too.
And I'm going to watch you too pass away. That literally cuts to the next scene. Elaine passing away in the funeral.
But he felt like it's a punishment from God because he executed
one of his miracles.
Right.
Because he executed one of his miracles. And he says, I do believe... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
He says, I do believe I'm going to die. But considering that if a little mouse can live for another 60 years... I wonder how much longer do I have left on here.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that's where the real Green Mile is. That right there. That is the longest mile. He is still going. He's still not dead yet. And that's got to be like one of the hardest things, I guess, for him.
It's a bittersweet ending. The movie, the way the movie wraps up is definitely bittersweet because you do get this extraordinary story about this extraordinary man and the guard who was shown something different that he wasn't really accustomed to, and
anybody accustomed to it.
Anybody, and the fact that he was shown that miracles actually do happen. But that's the Green Mile.
Kind of tough to even talk about.
Yeah.
That's pretty good
emotional to get through.
For a 3-hour movie done in an hour and a half. That's not bad.
So let's start. Who's getting your That Guy award?
So I feel like I'm going to get shit for saying this, but my That Guy award is Mr. Jingles.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, he really is. Like, so every scene that Mr. Jingles was in was one of the most powerful for me because it's a mouse. You're like, okay, why would I care about a mouse? But the movie makes you feel for this mouse, and then they end with the mouse as well. Mm-hmm. So it was just, I liked Mr. Jingles.
Who's getting your That Girl award or That Chick award?
The warden's wife. It's just interesting to see how the warden's wife could transform from not a bitter, angry woman, but that's what she was because of the tumor, into this sweet person. And then she knows the truth about everything. Mm-hmm. She might not know, who killed the 2 little girls, but she knows the truth. This guy's innocent.
Right.
That full award.
Oh, jeez. I mean, is everybody just going to say Percy?
No,
okay.
You never know.
Well, I don't know. That's tough because, I mean, you want to hate him. That's the whole point. I just hate him so much that I just don't want him there.
So it's Percy. That's fair.
Cut that out.
Is there a scene you would have cut out?
I was thinking about this the entire time, and I honestly think I don't know. I could not think of a scene. The only one maybe is the very beginning when they execute Bitterbuck, but also an important scene for telling you how the execution goes. So I don't have a good scene.
An iconic scene.
The iconic scene for me was Mr. Jingles coming back to life. And then, right after that, Percy being like, there's no way he's back to life. And then, again, smash that together with the next 10 seconds after that where the threat comes in, which is like one of the scariest threats I've ever heard in my life.
All right, you, sir. That Guy award?
David Morse. Just so much presence at so many key moments. Obviously, Michael Duncan is the powerhouse of the whole film, but in terms of like an unlikely award, David Morse.
All right, That Chick award.
I
don't have anyone. I mean,
was Mr. Jingles a girl or is it? No,
it's
Mr.
Actually,
Jingles.
Fair point because they actually switched out mouses for it. It was initially a male and then later turned into a female.
All right, fair enough. That full award.
Sam Rockwell.
Wild Bill.
I hated Wild Bill. I hated Wild Bill the most of all the characters. And he is the real villain. Ultimately. I mean, he's the cause of the whole thing. I just think he's just horrible.
Cut that out.
I actually would cut out the whole old Paul. I just don't care about it.
Interesting.
I just don't care that he's going to live another 200 years or something. And then he's sad. I just don't care at all. I just don't.
Fascinating.
Like if they had started it with 1935 and ended in 1935, it would have been all just as emotionally powerful.
It would have been the same movie.
It would have been the same movie.
What if they started in 35 and ended in 99? Would it have made a difference?
I don't know. I just don't care about old Paul.
An iconic scene.
The execution of Michael Duncan, and really kind of the little bit before that, the time that whole period where he's done. Mm-hmm. He is done living. He doesn't want to live anymore. Mm-hmm. You saw all those scars. So right. Obviously, in terms of like a Jesus reference, mm-hmm. he's been tormented throughout his whole life, right. And he's done. And he actually doesn't want Paul to feel miserable. And he tells everybody, like, "Hey, no, it's okay, guys."
Right.
Yeah.
Danger Neff, are you crying?
No.
Okay. That guy
I was just thinking about it. I'm sorry.
Oh God, this is such an emotional.
That guy
I'm crying just talking about it.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely teared up. So it's all right.
I teared up
it's
too.
It's all right to cry, brother.
I teared up at work.
You teared up. I cried like a baby.
I was sitting there. I was like trying to hold it into at work because I'm like, oh God, this is so hard to watch.
It's weird though. I've been strangely emotional the last year or two. Like I mean. Movies never make me cry except for Fox and the Hound and the Green Mile when I was growing up. Now I'm listening to the Frozen 2 soundtrack and I'm like, this song is just so beautiful. And I wish I was lying about that, but I really have cried to the Frozen 2 soundtrack.
Who is getting that guy award? It's going to go to Michael Clarke Duncan. I'm a little surprised nobody said that. I'm very excited. As much of a catalyst that this is Paul's story, this is actually a role I did not care that Tom Hanks was actually in. I felt like you actually could have replaced Tom Hanks with probably Gary Sinise and still gotten the same acting performance out of it. Paul wasn't necessarily a strong character. However, Michael Clarke Duncan, and every time you see him, you have an emotion attached to him. When you first see him, it's almost fear or shock or holy shit, that's a big dude. You know, as you go on and you see how sweet he is and how just a wonderful person he is, you kind of really feel it's almost a joy to kind of watch him. Once you start seeing his immeasurable power that comes from it, you're seeing wow, how is he in this situation then? Mm-hmm. You have questions each and every step of the way as the story peels back its layers to kind of tell it to you. And when he decides to pull at your heartstrings to kind of just say, what would you do if you were a miracle of God and you were tired of living? What would you do at that point?
Very stuff where he knows who he is.
Exactly. Right. He was very aware of his power, no matter how uneducated that he may have sounded. He was very aware of the person that he was.
So I wasn't trying to laugh at that, but I connected some lines here that threw me off and I couldn't help it. So when you were saying you just get that powerful emotion just from seeing Michael Clarke Duncan in this movie, the first thing that popped in my head was, holy shit, it's Bigfoot, which coincidentally, Deuce Bigelow came out of the movie. Deuce Bigelow. Absolutely.
That chick award.
It will go to Patricia Clarkson, Melinda Moore, because she's a person that's in suffering, and she's a person that's in pain this entire movie. And on her best days, she's feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And so to kind of see the transformation, obviously, to being hateful in the speech that she had towards Michael Clarke Duncan, and then suddenly turning on that charm towards the end, where she's just grateful and again, you couldn't feel happier for her.
That was legitimately good acting. I agree with you.
It was, and that's why I give it to her. Yeah. Like Bonnie Hunt kind of played the. Bonnie Hunt was the supportive 1950s wife. Yeah. Which is fine, but it's one note. Yeah. I'm making roast. Great. Thank you. Not that I'm complaining, Paul, but I can't remember the last time we did it 4 times when I was 19. Great. Thank you for the compliment, honey. All supportive. No fighting there, just like always supportive. And that's great. But that is a one note character through and through. That's why
she was literally the wife.
Exactly. Yeah. You are the wife of the main character.
That full award.
Oh, so I will go ahead and give this to Percy. I can't give it to Wild Bill because I hated Wild Bill also. but he was so good to hate that it's one of those things that like that you don't respect it. It's just one of those things that it's like the emotion you attach to is that it's hate. I don't like you. Please get away from me. Right. Whereas Percy, it's like fuck you. I could take you on. Yeah. You won't even hit a guy who's in chains.
I would compare this, and I mean, if for all my friends that would know me, I'm a huge nerd, and I would compare Wild Bill to oh god, I just forgot her name all of a sudden, but from Harry Potter.
Oh, Dolores Umbridge.
Yes, like there is no redeeming quality at all.
Exactly.
In either of those characters, and you just like, I hate you.
Whereas Percy is Wormtail in this case, where it's just he's just annoying, and his only catalyst. They actually did something in the movie. Have you noticed that his shoes squeak the loudest in the movie?
Yeah.
They did that on purpose so that you could hear him coming, because the most annoying person you can always hear and feel coming. That's why he's that fool.
Cut that out.
Nothing. I think for 3 hours and 9 minutes, I think they did a fantastic job of the movie. And it's the only thing I may actually consider changing or altering or even removing altogether is maybe the conversation with Gary Sinise. Only because it's nice extra exposition, but it doesn't actually drive the story forward.
It didn't add to anything.
No, but it just makes you kind of... The one thing that it does do is that it does alter a scene for you in the future of like, what is this guy doing? How is he suddenly becoming evil? When he was so good.
Cut that out.
That was cut that out.
I'm sorry. Iconic scene.
Iconic scene.
He really wanted you to cut it out.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
Keep going. Iconic scene is the healing of Melinda Moore. You know, and that entire scene afterwards. The I'm tired boss scene is a fantastic scene. And if it was just Jay and I, that would probably be my iconic scene. But the healing of Melinda Moore is fantastic, because you see finally what would happen when limitation is actually reached, and still to cut when you finally have that second chain of life, that second link of life. You know, the gratefulness to have that time added back to you. Great acted performances by like everybody in that room.
I just wish. Well, no, like we're going with your theory, Rich. I was gonna say I just wish they would have said how long she lived, but if with your theory, it didn't change anything.
We don't know.
Yeah.
She probably lived on for forever.
Well, if we're going to his theory, John Coffey didn't have that same connection he had with Delacroix and the mouse, and then
right, because it wasn't healing.
Yeah,
it was taking. Point. It was right, exactly. You know, for me to share my experience with you, for me to share my blood with you, and for you to have eternal life, you have to experience all the pain and suffering that I probably went through. Right. It may not take you the little amount of time that I did, but don't worry, you'll get there.
She did probably outlive the warden, because it seemed like she was like 20 years younger than her.
Got a whole, makeover there. My guy, Jay Lonzo, who is getting your That Guy Award.
My That Guy Award is going to go ahead and go to John Coffey. Number one, rest in peace to Michael Clarke Duncan. This role really did bring out the absolute best that he had.
I think it's his best.
I think
role.
the best.
I mean, the best. I mean, as far as I can't.
There's a part of me that really likes Bear, though. In Armageddon.
Yeah, I like Bear. I also like Frankie Figs and Whole 9 Yards as well.
There you go.
But this role really does showcase. Michael Clarke Duncan was a security guard for Martin Lawrence before he really broke out into acting. But for a guy of this size, this stature, to really give such an emotional, driven performance, I mean, I'm kind of choked up even thinking about it, because as a guy that's been through the mud as his character, you feel for him. Yep. That's why he's also be my iconic scene as well. But Michael Clarke Duncan as John Coffey kills it for me. Absolutely.
That Chick Award.
That Chick Award, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with Patricia Clarkson as Melinda Moore. The fact that she meets this big, huge black dude and says some outlandish shit, but at the same time, the minute that she's healed, immediate, grateful, humble,
repentant.
Yeah. Take this. I want you to carry this with you everywhere you go. And it didn't feel cheap. It felt very well earned. It felt like she was like, you literally just saved my life, and I need you to carry on and whatever path you're on, do it with God. And I love that it was immediate change in how she felt about it. Even with the warden as well. And, he greeted him with a shotgun, and at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure we didn't see him hug the man. Thank you so much for saving my wife. You know what I'm saying? But because that scene is so powerful, and how she gave just a great acting performance, how she was able to go from being kind of mean and snobby and sick to now overly grateful and humble about it. So, yeah.
That full award.
I struggle with this one. Even hearing you guys talk about it, I struggle with this one because I was going to give it to Wild Bill, but Wild Bill was literally put in this movie to be an evil presence. So it's gonna go to Percy because he's the guy that he's complicated. He's a guy that you love to hate him. You love to hate Percy. Wild Bill, you just hate him because he's just an evil presence there. But Percy, you hate him because though you do evil shit, you think evil shit, but when push comes to shove, you're a pussy. You're not gonna do anything. You're not gonna really do anything to really showcase what you can actually do.
You never even find out either why he's that way. Why he's
you don't. But
Wild Bill's evil just because he's a crazy son of a bitch.
But Percy is evil because he's privileged. He feels like he can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And he knows it's a one phone call away. You're gonna get fired. You're gonna get fired. That's just what it is. So when he takes the illness from Mrs. Moore's. And basically, takes out Wild Bill. Now he himself is not brain fried. It's like he's almost kind of getting his comeuppance in the oddest way possible. Because Wild Bill, you kind of see like he needs to die.
Yeah.
Percy, you want to see him suffer because of all the pain he has inflicted on everybody else.
You didn't want to see Percy succeed
at all.
You didn't want to see him, get the promotion, or
at
get
all.
the better pay. I don't want to see you working with mental patients. No, I want to see you, broken down
and suffer.
Exactly, and he is.
He's working with mental patients the exact same way I want him to.
I need you to feel the exact same pain that you inflicted on these men, on these prisoners. Just the fact that you're this high end government official's nephew or wife's nephew. Doesn't give you the right to act the way you act toward these people. Like, there's people that do that to this day. And you just hope that you see that day when you've felt the pain that you've put to other people.
I just got the feeling that he's the kind of kid who probably killed his neighbor's cats and stuff like that.
Easily. He was a Sid.
Right?
Easy.
He's
at least a frog.
Yeah.
He was the really asshole kid in Butterfly Effect.
Yeah.
That's who he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Cut that out.
I would say there's nothing I would cut out.
It's tough.
It's
so
3
hard.
hours, 8 minutes. It flows so well. I would say
the ending credits because
can we just cut out?
That's wrong.
The first 2 seconds because I just want to start the movie. Let's just go.
I would say I wouldn't necessarily cut out. I'd more so shorten. I want to say the intro. We know that Paul's in a retirement home. We know that he's in this weird TV room with 20 other elderly folk. I feel like even though it is humorous in a way, but it kind of stretches out a bit too long.
They could have even put that scene at the end, and it's still done kind of the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's that's literally your beginning and your conclusion. So, if I can cut out anything, it'd probably be the opening scene. Yeah,
solid and iconic scene.
I struggle with this one as well. And I've now landed on watching the joy of John Coffey watch that movie.
Solid.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say opening credits because this entire movie is amazing.
Watching John Coffey really just kind of taking in. Like, he'd never seen a movie before, and he's watching this movie, and he's just overly joyed by it. And then the camera pans back to Paul and the rest of the guards, and they're joyed by watching him feel that same joy because he's earned that. You know what I'm saying? So,
and then it penetrates even further because now you're watching these people watch him.
Yeah,
and now
I'm enjoying that. So even though the very next scene is like,
he's like, oh man.
All right, so let's get into some quick hits. We can wrap this thing up. Quick hits. First one for you: Shaquille O'Neal was considered for the role of John Coffey,
and then they saw his performance in Kazam
or
Steel, and you're like, you know what? I don't think we can get there with you.
I think I might be the only person on the planet that actually owns a DVD copy of Steel. I mean, I don't know why I have it. But
if we're being fair, Steel and Kazam, I will watch Steel any day before I watch Kazam ever again. So let me just be honest real quick. Michael Clarke Duncan had to stop lifting weights while filming to look more like a man from 1935.
How? Do you see how massive his arms are?
There's no black man in the world built like that, man. That's 35. Let me go ahead and say that right now. For emotional scenes, Michael Clarke Duncan would recall his father leaving him as a child.
Nope.
Tom Hanks treated the entire crew to a meal every Friday night on set.
Oh, damn.
Michael Clarke Duncan was the soul of the cast. According to producer David Valdez, he remembers Tom Hanks crying on Michael's last day of shooting. Bonnie Hunt gained 15 pounds for her role. She joked it only took half an hour.
That cornbread. That's
the good old cornbread. Doug Hutchison said that every week on set was a different chapter in Percy's abuse. Doug Hutchison also said that he made a $20 bet with the extras behind the scenes during Dale's execution that they couldn't recite his lines. Unknowingly, Tom Hanks wrote Hutchison's lines on a big cue card behind him. Hutchison caught onto the joke when the extras kept laughing. By the end of the day, he owed at least $60 to different people. And lastly, Stephen King responded to criticism that saw the film as a racial allegory by saying the only reason he made John Coffey a black man was that given the time, place, and setting of the novel and the crime for which Coffey was convicted, it was the only way to leave no doubt that he would have been sentenced to death.
Yep.
And that, my friends, is the Green Mile.
That was amazing.
Next week,
the next
it
2
must
weeks,
be lighter next week.
the next 2 weeks are also incredibly long movies. We
wrap out the year with over 2.5 hours.
2.5 hour movies, both of them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is impossible.
But next week going to be a lot lighter than today. It has to be. In a way, yeah. In a way,
I mean, it is. We're not.
It isn't this. Put it that way.
We're not killing somebody, but you're pretty sure somebody died after.
I'm quite sure someone died after, but we'll get that in a second. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us today,
much.
man.
It was excellent. Thank you.
Let the people know where they can find you.
All right, dorksidenews.com.
Dorkside News?
Dorkside News on Twitter, Dorkside News on Instagram, Dorkside News on Facebook.
If you type in Dorkside News somewhere, you'll find us.
Spotify.
We will be there.
Podcasts.
You can see it on YouTube for sure. I definitely typed in Dorkside News. And you can subscribe to their videos over there. I was definitely on a show, I promise you. So you can find.
I want some Dork Side News love too, man. I missed that show. I want to be on the show.
You recorded twice in 2 days.
I was done with studio stuff. I didn't want to do nothing else. I was.
You let us know next time both of you are free. We'll do it.
Let's do it, man. Absolutely. Danger Neff. Where can they find you?
You can always find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at David Danger Neff. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics, as we got a whole bunch of stuff going on now.
My God.
My goodness. Really it is moving along here. For those of you who are interested into booking or editing or need something done with your podcast, please hit us up at beatnetworkonline.com/Beat Studios. We can go ahead and create, develop, edit, and do anything you pretty much want, including video production, if you're interested in starting your own podcast. My God, Jay Alonso, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the social media simply at I am Jay Alonso. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You talk to me and I'll talk back. Of course, the Facebook page, Back to the Classics, a movie talk page, is up and running by my man Dave and myself. We haven't jumped in there in a little while, though.
No, we haven't.
There's
a couple things we can start sharing.
Yeah. But also Spoiling the Classics, another Facebook movie talk page that Dave runs that I'm hardly on. But also don't forget to check out my other show, Turn My Mic Up, every Friday on YouTube, as well as, should we announce the Oscar stuff?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
All right, so coming up, me and Dave are going to do another 2-show week.
Because we already hate ourselves enough.
You know, we have nothing better to do. So
no, I definitely have better things to do.
Sleep.
Let's make that clear. I don't have time for this, but I'm going to make time.
I'm going to sleep for sure. But next week we're going to do 2 shows. We'll give you a little heads up. We're going to do a show where we're going to do both the top 10 movies of 2019 and the top, 5?
Yeah, the top five movies of the decade of the 2010s.
2010 to 2019. Do you have one? Throw out real quick. No.
He's like, no.
I mean, it's
Not.
Endgame. I mean, why not?
It's going to require a lot of thought for sure.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's definitely Endgame.
But we're going to do that.
Going to be in there,
and then eventually we'll bang out an Oscar show pretty soon once the Oscar nominations come out.
That's right. And we'll have that on a live stream on Twitch for sure, and more than likely YouTube Live as well. So please keep a lookout for that.
And with that being said, this is Back to the Classics. We see you guys next week. I am Jay Alonso. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff.
Thank y'all for riding with us again. Once again, super shout out to Dork Side News. See you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.